Okay, welcome everyone to the regular planning commission meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Let me see here. Here in the third floor conference room, we have myself, Wayne Beeler. I am chairman of the planning commission. Peter Rye is with us. And let me see here. And Nelson DeLeon is with us online. And we need one more person. So let's give us a minute to see if we can have one more person join us. Otherwise, we don't have quorum. Does anyone know who else phone number? So we see it every week. Oh yeah. I wrote it down. Okay. All right. Let me just get Will a call. Okay, very good. We will start the meeting. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the City of Reading Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, 2025. Here in the third floor conference room, we have Peter Rye, myself, Wayne Beeler. I am chairman of the Planning Commission. Wilson Pesey has just joined us by telephone. He is vice chairman, and we also have Nelson DeLeon with us online. The first on the agenda is to accept the Planning Commission meeting agenda. Are there any changes or amendments? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to accept tonight's agenda?
So move.
Peter? Okay. Nelson?
Yep.
For a second. Question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Yeah. Hey, we now have an agenda. Okay. Let's see here. Chris, do you have any public comments, or would you like to wait till the end? I'll wait till the end. Very good. Okay. So our first plan up is the Reading Parking Authority parking land development at 905 Green Street. If you could please, if you are here for that project, if you could please introduce yourself. Okay. I guess Mr. Schmoll is not with Parking Authority. Okay. With that, let's just do yeah, I'll turn it over to Jerome for a brief overview of the plan and what we get to look forward to.
Okay. This project is the Reading Parking Authority 905 Green Street Land Development Plan. It was submitted as a preliminary / final plan application. It involves 13,585 square feet on 7 parcels of land that will be annexed together in order to incorporate one parcel. The zoning hearing board has granted several variances, and we had asked that the zoning office review those. It seems like that what they have noted on the plan is a little bit different than what the zoning hearing board had granted. So we just want to make sure that all the relief granted is consistent with what the plan is specifying. We have also issued some comments regarding site accessibility, parking and loading, and this goes back to one of the zoning hearing board variances that were granted with regards to clear site triangles. There is some problems with site distance that we need to resolve with Public Works as well as the applicant on that particular issue. But it looks like it will have to have a technical meeting on that. The existing curb sidewalks along Green Street and North 9th Street are in fair to poor condition and need a replacement. The only thing is that appears to be in good condition is the handicap ramp at that intersection. A landscaping plan was submitted and it has been reviewed by the arborist. And so we have those comments in play. The lighting plan was submitted as well, and we need the note on the plan for the reduction of lighting intensity. Some additional comments, fire and rescue will need to review the plan. We've had several stormwater management comments that should be able to be addressed without any complications. There is an erosion and sedimentation control plan that needs to be approved. There's maybe utilities that have been terminated along this stretch because these were allocated for residential homes in the past. So if there are any sewer, water, gas, telephone, or cable lines that need to be abandoned, they should be abandoned as part of this project. And then going into our typical notes, this will require a municipal improvements agreement and a stormwater management agreement.
And have we received Berks County Planning Commission review?
Yes. Berks County Planning Commission, their comments. I don't see him in this file, but oh, there it is. June 6th, 2025. Okay. And I didn't see anything additional in there.
Okay. Tim, do you have any comments on this one?
Yes, just a few. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, very good. Yeah, Public Works agrees with the comments from the Hog Valley that were just reviewed. And the only thing I'd really add to that is I noticed that the stormwater management outlet pipe from the downstream end is going to cross through North 9th Street to the storm sewer main that's existing in North 9th Street, which is fine. We have no problem with that. We would want to have a junction box at that location and also would want to alert the parking authority that that is a state highway and it will require an HOP to do that work. And based on the work that the Reading School District just went through on North 9th Street, that could take a little longer than you might expect, but we'll be here to help. And is there anyone here
Yeah,
from
actually,
McCarthy? And anyone representing McCarthy in the meeting tonight? Then
Well, there is anyone here. They don't want to be associated with the planet.
I agree with the comment that we should have a technical meeting. I think that would be in order. Yeah, and that's all I have.
Okay. Good. Okay. Any comments from the commissioners? Okay. Very good. Hearing none. Since there's going to be a technical meeting and that they need to be informed that an HOP is required and there is no one here to represent this plan, may I hear a motion to table?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
I will second the motion. Oh, thank you, Nelson. Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, very good. We are unanimous and we'll see this again next month. Very good. Let's see here. Is Dan, are you back?
Do you hear me?
Yep, there you are, Dan. Okay, we can move on to the next one then. Okay, next on the agenda is 630 South 9th Street. Parking facility, and I'll turn it over to Jerome for the update.
Okay. Before I start my review, we should first start to call this something other than 630 South 3rd Street, because 630 South 3rd Street is across the street.
South 9th.
The tax
South
map,
9th.
the tax maps identify it as 601 South 9th Street. And it's
Okay.
the only building on the 600 block of South 9th Street. The big cotton mill on the corner of Cotton, that's 501, and then the 700 block starts with the cemetery. So 601 would be an appropriate name for it.
All right. So this plan was reviewed on June 19th, 2025. We have seen this project in the past, so this is a revised preliminary / final plan in which we're getting down to some finality. We're able to have a site visit and a technical review on this plan, so we were able to accomplish quite a bit. The applicant has included or specified a desire to phase this project off in order to accomplish certain site improvements, as well as for the city to accomplish certain site improvements. So what Dan had done was identify 3 phases, and what's on number 5 of my plan or review is what is specified, or what the applicant is proposing as a phasing scheme. So phase 1 shall include the curb along South Street to conform with the 2025 street improving program for the northeast catch basin on South Street near the intersection of South 9th Street to the eastern property line of the premise. We'll see the map to see this. The handicap ramp at the intersection of South Street and South 9th Street will be completed by the city during the street improvements contract. Install the future sewer and water connections to the northern curb of South Street for use in phase 2. The curb and sidewalks along South Street, the proposed parking lots, the 2 parking drive ramps along East Laurel Street, which is also maybe referred to as Neversink Street, to be proposed to the proposed parking areas. The Public Works Department has indicated that the observed subsidence along the southern curb along East Laurel Street is the responsibility of the city to investigate and mitigate. Phase 2 and phase 3 are then rather simple. Phase 2 shall include the permitting and construction of the flex building and the installation of the sidewalk along South Street to connect with the improved handicap ramp. Phase 3 shall include the installation of sidewalks along East Laurel Street after the city has resolved the subsidence issue located in the area. Those are which are specified directly from the plan, and I thought that we should focus our discussion tonight on those improvements, so we can look at the plan view, and Dan could possibly then take us through what's necessary. All the other items are going to be technical items. on this review to the issue, but we need to agree upon the phasing scheme. And if we do agree upon the phasing scheme, then we can grant the preliminary plan approval. And then the applicant can bring back the phasing plans as final plans.
I guess I made a mistake in my thing. I'm calling East Laurel Street, Neversink Street, so I'll have to change that.
Yeah.
My- my-
Yeah, you have the map plan? Yeah, right here. On the last page of my review, second to last page, that's the so if you have that, just jump to page 4. So Dan, why don't you walk us through this?
What's that?
Why don't you walk through the phasing plan with us while we're looking at it on the screen?
Oh, okay. What I tried, phase one, the flex buildings, which will be phase two. He has really no idea. It's one of those things that he'll have to address that when he gets closer to it. His primary concern is to build the parking spaces along 9th Street and East Laurel Street. So those are his primary concerns, that we can get them done. So we thought that this would be a preliminary plan, and then we'll come back next month with a final plan, and the flex buildings will be removed, and just note that as being phase two. Then when he solidifies his ideas there on the flex buildings, we can finish any stormwater needed for that, and address that as a revised final plan.
I think we should clean up the phasing plan and just to identify them maybe as bullet points. So that way we can refer to them a little bit easier, than determine which ones are essential and which ones can be possibly moved to another phase, or additional ones that can be added.
Well, I think basically everything's essential. He's building the curb along South Street now to be prepare for the city's street project. So that should be completed before too terribly long. How do we apply to do the water tap in and the sewer tap in to get to the flex building, which would be phase one, and get that out of the road so we're not digging up your new road in the future?
Then you have that?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, so you want to do that in phase two, but you want to install it in phase one.
Yeah. Well, we can wait
Yeah,
till phase.
Well, I mean, but you want to do it while the curb is going in and before the street gets paved, and I'm 100% behind that. I don't have a problem with doing that for sewer, and that's all we can speak of here, because the water and gas and whatever else would come from those private suppliers, those utility providers. But I would agree, anything that you could do installing those laterals to the flex building now before we start, and that could be next month, probably August, that we'll be in there doing the paving. That would be good. That way you won't have to go in there and break up the brand new pavement.
So August is the paving, and
And to do that, you just send me an email.
okay.
for the,
Does Rawa, do they do their own, or do you have a contract to do that under their guidance?
yeah, you'll have to talk to them about it because there are tapping fees. For the city,
Yeah.
there is no tapping fee. So it's pretty simple for the city. You could do that and cap it and you're set to go with this, with Rawa. You'll need to talk to them about that. It's more complicated.
Okay. Okay. So I guess the other thing is when we get to, there's some comments on Jerome's letter here about the storm sewer, Tim. And what I did is I think we were talking last month that we only have to do stormwater for the new roof area.
Yeah.
And he's saying the letter saying I should do groundwater recharge calculations. This area with these torn down buildings and these very high old retaining walls and steep slopes, I don't think it's a good place to be doing any groundwater recharge. And especially unknown what's underneath these buildings. So we should probably have a waiver on that. The water quality calculations, we can probably meet with my detention. I just have to look at that. And I think I got the rate control.
So you have detention? You are proposing a subsurface detention?
Yeah, I have a 24-inch pipe there along the front of that building, and what I was afraid of is they build that roof with sloping back towards that steep slope, and all that water is going to be going down over the bank into the 9th Street parking. So
Yeah.
if you see there, I'm picking up the roof leaders on the back of that building and taking them out, and that's a 2-foot pipe that runs the whole length of the building, and then it's discharged to South Street with a 3-inch pipe. So that routed as I recall, it routed the excess of that building, and we had a reduction from what just ran off of that as impervious in the prior construction state.
So, Jerome, are we looking for final or engineering on this phase 2 flex building for stormwater?
We're right now going to be looking at the preliminary plan as an overall component. If we
Yeah.
need another technical review, we can do so. What the applicant's looking forward to is bringing in final plans for each phase, but they have to satisfy stormwater management as well as the erosion sedimentation control measures.
At final,
As the entire,
as what now?
as part of this phase.
Okay. Yeah, which is normal at preliminary plan stage. Yeah, it should be. It should be included, the engineering.
Yeah, the question, do you want to do a stormwater agreement to cover all 3 phases or?
That's a good question.
Well, there's really only stormwater in this phase with the flex building. That's the only phase that requires stormwater management. If they weren't doing that phase, you wouldn't need any stormwater management.
Okay,
So that'd be phase 2.
Phase 2. Okay.
So we'll hold off on those stormwater calculations till phase 2 and complete it at that time with the final plan for phase 2.
Yeah. So the applicant's really doing this just to break up the financing for the entire project in order to accomplish it. Tim, would you have a problem with preliminary plan approval at this point, subject to the conditions in the review letter? And then have Dan resolve those issues and then bring back the final plan?
I would, and Dan started by asking a good question. Waiver, he's asking for a waiver on the groundwater infiltration requirement. He's meeting the water quality requirement, and I would assume that the pipe, would you say it was a 24-inch or 2-foot pipe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
24-inch pipe.
24-inch pipe, so he can get the other requirements for volume control, but he doesn't want to infiltrate it, and I think he's got a pretty good reason why he shouldn't. This would not be a good place to infiltrate, and it's such a small area that I think I would recommend that.
Yeah.
That that be suggested, I think I would recommend the waiver of the infiltration on this site.
So that'd be section 505-125, which is groundwater recharge calculations.
Yeah, he has a table of waivers requested, and he's got them all listed in here. I don't think we want to do them all, but I would be in favor of the one you just cited. Is it on there, Dan? Yes, 505-125 groundwater recharge. The first one on the list, I would recommend. The others, I wouldn't recommend those for waivers, and I think, Dan, you said you could probably meet those.
I believe so. It's been a while since I've looked at my calculations. I think maybe something was missing. The scanner had done that, but
Mhm.
I think I can live with. I think we meet the other ones, but I also the church that's just to the east of this property along South Street. I had done a plan for that, and we were looking at doing stormwater infiltration on that one, and that also has those old stone walls. And going up East Laurel Street just the other day, I noticed how those walls are collapsing, and they don't have any extra water going into them. So the infiltration on this site, I don't think it's a good idea.
No, in fact, you want to do just the opposite.
Yeah.
You don't want to infiltrate behind a wall. You want to divert that away from a wall.
Yeah. Especially
otherwise-
these old walls.
Oh, yeah.
They're not drained. They don't have weep holes there.
Right.
There. So I can take all those
So-
other ones, and the planning commission, I can put a date on for today for the groundwater recharge, and I can remove the others.
That would be fine for Public Works.
I think if we grant the waiver, then if the applicant agrees to resolve the other issues as part of the final plan requirements, we should be able to move on. The erosion sedimentation control plan should have to be approved for the entire site, though.
Yes, I'm working on that. I have a plan ready to submit. I have to get the $1,800 check from him and hopefully submit that this week. So I can probably have that. Usually that takes about a month. So I'm hoping I can have that approval by the July meeting.
They also submitted a sanitary sewage narrative in which to demonstrate that there'll be a minimal increase. I don't know if that's gotten approval yet, but that is something that we need to look at as well. That's for
What
the
sheet?
flex building.
Yeah, what sheet is that on, Dan? The narrative?
I think that was just a written sheet that
Oh,
I sent in to you folks. And
Oh,
we were looking at
I'm
that, so
sorry, I haven't read that.
that would be a phase 2 issue too, because right now he could get one tenant for the whole building that and or he could have a couple little units with people, up like a plumber that comes in the morning, loads his truck
Mhm.
up and leaves. So
Right.
how do you plan for what he's going to have when you don't know what's going to be there?
Yeah, I realize we have to come up with something though.
Yeah.
We have to put in EDUs. What is your projection based on the
Well,
knowledge?
let me look at it. I think I can find it here pretty quick.
While you're doing that, I want to raise another question. And help me out here with zoning. I see that the fence, the chain link fence is proposed with a height of 6 feet. Does that need a waiver? Is 6 feet acceptable, or is it 4? I can't remember now. It's been too long.
This was reviewed by Emily.
Okay. 6 is okay. Okay, yeah, because I agree. It should be a 6.
Yeah,
It's 6 is okay in the MC. So
Okay, good.
yeah.
Good. Yes.
I think it's
Okay,
an 8
Yep.
foot is when you need a,
right. A variance. Yeah.
6 feet is the zoning limit, yes.
Okay. Good.
I don't see that I wrote up. Maybe I have a note on there.
Yeah, I was looking. You know which page it's on? I have 3 of them here.
Well, I think it would be on page 1. Let's see.
Okay. Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
Just says if flows exceed 1 EDU, a sewage planning module will be prepared and approved.
Actually, if it can exceed 1, it just can't exceed 2. The
Somewhere else
DEP,
he put on there a projected number of employees, and he allocated 10 gallons per day per person.
yeah,
There it is. It's under proposed sewage under just above the zoning districts. It says proposed sewage, 6 flex buildings. So that needs to be updated. And then it says each 4 employees times 10 gallons, which is less than 1 EDU.
okay. Yeah.
So I think for phase 2, I think we need a better narrative.
Yeah, just clean that up and that'll work.
Well, that'll be in the future when we do the revised plan for phase 2, right? Or do we need that for now?
Yes.
Yes, we need it for now, or yes, we need it in the future.
No, phase 2 will be fine for the narrative.
Okay,
And then that way you'll have a better idea what he's doing with the building.
yeah,
Yeah, since we'll be closer to, what he has in mind.
yeah. He has quite a bit of expense doing this curb and the sidewalk and getting the parking lots. And then he can sit back and think what he wants to do, because building buildings is, well, hopefully the prices come down on some of this stuff too. In the future, if the inflation and stuff gets a handle on it, and it might be a little more palatable to build. But he has to market it, and usually it's like shopping centers. You get an anchor store in, and then you can find other tenants. So he almost has to find somebody that needs a space and build something, and then he can work from there.
It would also, it's also good. I'm sorry. I was going to add to the sewer. Since you're talking about adding the sewer lateral, before paving, doing it now, knowing that it's an EDU, that'll schedule the size of the pipe. It also size the trap and the stacks at the curb. So he'll get you a capped lateral there where you need it with for later, for tapping in later when you're after the paving is done. So it's good to know that now.
I would recommend then we can grant preliminary plan approval for the entire site subject to the comments issued in the review letter dated June 19th, 2025, and that the applicant is to bring back phase final plan, well, for each phase or a combination of phases that they may seek in the future as described on the plan. As part of the final plan, the applicant would then demonstrate resolving all of the comments that have been issued in the June 19th review letter. The waiver that we discussed about groundwater recharge would apply when we get to phase 2.
Okay.
Unless you want to grant it now.
No, I think we can go ahead and grant that now. Yeah, because it's not going to change anything in the future.
Correct.
Yeah.
That is highlighted in item 9A. That's it.
Okay, great. Okay.
A lot of this is coordination with the Public Works Department with their improvements. So it'll take a great deal of coordination.
All right, and then just one question, Tim, on, is that East Laurel Street? Yeah, on East Laurel Street, were you able to go over there and see what this subsidence problem is?
Yeah, we looked at it a few weeks ago, and it appears to be, well, I'll say it's a sinkhole, but there's a lot of things that we see in the city. We just repaired one out Brookline Plaza over in Oak Brook. It was very similar, about the same size, maybe a little bit smaller. Yeah, and we had to get in there. We cooperated with the Reading Housing Authority on their project, and we dug down, stabilized it, and brought it back up, and paid for the street repairs. And and then the Housing Authority did the curb and the sidewalk because that's on their side of their portion of the right-of-way line for maintenance. So we worked that out together, and that went real well. So yeah, I did see it, and we'll be addressing that, as we develop. Perhaps even next year, maybe we'll pave Laurel Street.
Just so you know what it looks like, Wayne, if you would take from the center line and project the slope of the street to the curb line, the street would exceed the top of the existing curb. That's how much, so it doesn't even hit the curb. It would bury the curb. So there's something strange going on there because the curb actually looks relatively nice for the curb on this site. But and so
Except it's sunk.
yeah.
Mhm. It
Do
happens.
the commissioners have any questions or comments on this plan?
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman, as well. The discussion about
Hi,
the
Walt.
street names. Hi. A question for Public Works. Is East Laurel Street a different street from Laurel Street?
I'm not aware of any difference. I'd have to check with with Chris Lovell. He's the experts on the streets.
They don't line up. I would imagine that's why the change is.
That's
'Cause they're all
what I
set
was wondering. I can't look at my map from where I'm calling from because Laurel Street runs east-west. It's not, I don't think it's called east. I just know that on some of these mapping programs, like my street, it'll show up sometimes as east. Well, it runs north-south. So I just wonder, is that really the name of the street? But if it's a section that's not lining up, that's possible. I'd just like confirmation from the city on that.
Yeah, I'd have to look that one. I'd have to look
Okay.
that up. I mean, the norm is everything east of Front Street is the name of the street without the word east, and everything west would have the label west attached to it. But there are exceptions.
Exactly. Front
and this
Street
may
would
be
be the
one.
dividing line. Yeah.
This could be an exception, and I'd have to check with Chris.
Yeah, because Laurel Street, of course, Laurel Street does not intersect anything really south of Penn, does not intersect with Front, so they're all east.
Yeah.
But if it's a different section, it could have that name, so that's what I
Right.
was wondering. Okay,
And it
yeah,
could-
if you're
and it-
checking that, I appreciate it.
Right, and it could be because it's offset, like it is like half a block, so it could be that they did
There
that
are streets
intentionally.
like that.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they're called little, such and such, instead
Right.
of east or west.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep, we'll check and
Okay.
report back.
Thank you.
Why doesn't he just phase one?
And just to let you know, I'll also double check 601 South 9th Street to make sure that's the correct address. I'll just verify that.
Yeah, that's what when you click on the tax maps, that's what they call for the location.
Okay,
But the owner of the property is the 630 South 9th Street LLC. That's why I was calling it that, but that's
Yeah.
actually the name of the LLC rather than the address of the property.
right. We'll make sure the address is right.
So keep in mind that this project was identified as a preliminary / final plan. We're backing it up to a preliminary plan in order to accomplish the conditions of approval. And then the final plan will then be the phasing scheme.
Okay, so first we will entertain a motion for the waiver of chapter of the groundwater recharge calculations, section 505. It's here. Okay, I'd say that here, section 505, 125.
Yeah,
Yeah,
125.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more decisions.
Okay, very good. so. Sir, do I hear a motion to grant the waiver?
So move.
Yes. Okay, Peter and no? Don't know why Siri is all of a sudden very interested in our discussion. Peter, awesome. Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. We now have the granted the waiver, so that part can move ahead. Now, do I hear a motion to grant preliminary plan approval for 601 South 9th Street parking facility? Condition, yeah. Conditioned upon the applicant meeting all of the requirements in the Hawk Valley Associate Review dated June 19th, 2025. Okay, Peter, second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Nelson. Question on the motion?
I have a question. Should we specify phase one, or don't we need to do that?
Each phase is going to come in as a separate final plan now. So
Okay.
we're just
So
like,
if we
okaying the
approve this,
overview.
okay, so if we approve this, it'll be clear what it is. That's all. Okay, great.
Very good. Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? Very good. And we now have a preliminary plan. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have anything else today.
Yeah, he'll be.
He'll be back. Okay. Very busy guy. All right. Okay. Now, on to the next thing. Okay, next we have the 1416 Luzerne Place townhouses. Is there anyone here for that?
Yeah, Gary Seidel and Joel are both on the call.
Both here.
Oh, hi, Gary.
Hey, guys.
Very good. I do want to thank you for providing the elevation and floor plans. Makes things a lot clearer.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to Jerome for the update.
Okay, this review was issued on June 21st, 2025. This is a preliminary plan application review. As you may recall, we reviewed this as a sketch plan. It was identified as Luzerne Place. I guess we're going to be recalling this as 1416 Luzerne Street. But the applicants are here. This project does contain 5 parcels of land that will be joined in common deed in order to create 8 lots containing attached dwellings for townhouses. This is a preliminary plan application. The development is located within the R3 zoning district. Townhouses are permitted in that district. The proposed one-family attached dwelling do appear to comply with the dimensional requirements. As Wayne mentioned, the applicant has submitted renderings that assist with the determination of compliance. So the zoning office will be able to determine if it meets the final requirements for zoning compliance. Number 7, some things we want to pay attention to is with respect to the site accessibility to the project. As you recall, our discussion with the use of the 15-foot wide alley. It is on the alley map, and however, the alley map was prepared in 1938, and the Warren Street bypass was constructed thereafter. So what the applicant does show is the limits of the Warren Street bypass. and also their limits. So there is an area of no man's land, which is between their property and the Warren Street bypass. They're going to be utilizing a portion of this property in order to connect Luzerne Street to Lackawanna Street with a 15-foot wide alley. So in this case, I'd like to turn it over to Tim at this point. What we need to do, or did you have any experience with this along the Warren Street bypass for other applications?
Let me get my mic on. Yeah, I had a chance to talk to Tom Ludgate about this. Now, I think Gary, you're on the job now.
Yeah, Tom's off today.
It got so maybe you can give a little bit of an update. But the last time I talked to Tom, it was still a little bit confusing as to what that is. It looks like a good plan. It looks like there's just this sliver of orphan piece of property that was left over after the Route 12 went in the Warren Street bypass. And I said to Tom, I've got 7 of my own projects. I don't need this one. So maybe somebody on your team could investigate it, because it would take a little research to look back and see where that piece is. So I don't know. Can you give an update on that sliver?
Yeah,
do you need a drawing? Do you need to see what this looks like? I mean,
maybe
I know
for
it's
them,
it's kind of detailed, but it sort of is important because it's got to be part of the driveway to get over to the alley, so you can get into those rear parking areas.
Yeah, when I talked to Tom, so what our research shows is by default, the city, from our understanding, owns the alley beyond the setback for the Warren Street bypass. So it's our understanding from our research that it actually is the city's with a sewer easement going through it. We could not find the sewer easement anywhere, but there's clearly a sewer easement going through it. And it kind of comes right around the edge of our property there. And it's kind of no man's land, but our understanding is it belongs to the city. And what Tom and I had discussed, if the commission's open for it, is we would improve that. I think Jerome has that in his comments. We would improve that, and then we could actually maintain it with a small HOA. Our homeowners could maintain the road and the snowplow removal to relieve the city of that. The only thing that Tom wanted me to mention to you was he wasn't sure, based on Jerome's write-up here, whether or not we could meet 20 feet on the back part that goes up the Lackawanna, and whether or not we'd want 20 feet on that south side coming back the ground in question, because we were thinking maybe you would do 15 feet with a 5 or 6 foot stone pad on the very south end approaching the right-of-way for the Warren Street bypass for overflow parking. But I'm open to the committee's thoughts on that.
Yeah, Gary,
to answer your question, Tim, I think it belongs to the city.
Yeah.
And we would just maintain it for you. I think that would be a good solution.
This is a bit of an odd one. We don't run into this very often. If you could, I don't know who's scrolling, but if you could pull up the drawing and let Gary describe and kind of present this issue. Again, we want to work together so we can resolve it, but we do need to get it legally established based on what we know, so we can make sure that the alley, whether it be 15 feet or 20 feet or whatever, we come to an agreement and we can settle it, because this drawing will then be recorded, and that will dictate the fate of this, of this. And we want to make sure we do it right. I think it's right at the bottom of the screen.
Scroll down just a tiny bit.
Can you scroll down a little bit more? Yeah.
Perfect.
There we go.
So if you look at the bottom of the plan, what Tim is mentioning, so starting over here with Luzerne Street, where it comes back, right there where your cursor is, that's kind of, we're beyond the PennDOT's right away. But we believe the city owns that, and then we have access to it because we join it, but we're not sure what you would prefer, Tim, whether the city maintains ownership of it and we just kind of annex it to our HOA to take care of it for the city, or the city wants to maintain it themselves, or the other option that I think would be more complicated would be to deed it to us as part of the plan. But Tom was trying to avoid that if at all possible. He was trying to leave it with the city, but have us responsible to maintain it. But we're open to options.
You said HOA. Well, that's a really interesting subject. We don't typically have HOAs in the city.
Well,
It's very unusual.
Yeah, so what we were proposing, I mean, we're open to anything, but what Tom was proposing and what him and I came up with, if we just had what's called a de minimis PUD, or like a $15 a month HOA fee for those 8 units to maintain the snow removal and the maintenance of the 2 alleys, it would relieve the city of any responsibility for maintaining them. And it would be up to the 8 homeowners, which I don't think they're going to get very heavy traffic, but they'll get traffic. Was kind of our idea to help the city and to help, get the plan to work the best for the homeowners.
So right now, that east-west alley that we're looking at right now, that's adjacent to the orphaned piece of property there between the alley and the Warren Street bypass, is that at 15 feet? I can't read the
Yes.
dimension right now. So you have 15 feet. Do you need that piece of orphaned property for access? Or is this just, we've got this thing hanging out there, what do we do with it? Is it more
Correct.
like, let's just resolve this weird piece of property?
Yeah, we could enter from Lackawanna Street to do what we want to do, but
Yeah.
we just thought it would be more beneficial for all parties involved if we could somehow address this bottom piece,
Yeah.
get it cleaned up for the city, but not necessarily have the city be responsible to snowplow and maintain it. It was kind of our idea.
Well,
If it's possible.
yeah,
Right,
I
it's
agree.
possible.
And I think as an engineer, it makes sense. And I'm gonna pull Michelle Mayfield into this because she loves doing alleys. She's an expert at it. And
I was just sitting here thinking, I need to find my alley research.
yes, put your alley hat on. I think it would make sense to figure out what the disposition of this piece of property is. And it wouldn't be annexed. If it was vacated, it would go to the adjacent owner. But who's the owner of the alley? Well, it's the consortium of adjacent owners to the alley. It would become, I guess, part of the alley. I'm in favor of that if it can legally be established that way. I think that would be the way to go. That way, it's just not hanging out there, because the city Public Works hates these little pieces of property. I can show you where there's 6 of them out there, and who takes care of it? Who's supposed to do it? And how do we get there? And how do we legally get access? Because technically, it's an alley. It's intended for the use of the individuals. The city shouldn't be making a habit of using a semi-private alley to access, for their maintenance work.
And
So,
I think you hit it, Tim. I think you said it correctly. What Tom told me to say on the call, and I thank you for helping me. I forgot that. He mentioned the word vacate. That was what he was expecting, thought was a simple solution.
Right. And we had talked about that. And I said, Tom, somebody is going to have to go to the city clerk and have their office do some research. And neither of one of us had the time to do it. I don't even know if he'd
research
find
done,
it.
but we couldn't come up with anything.
Right. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me. Yeah, we've had that too. So here we have a piece of orphan property that's hanging out there. Who owns it? Probably the city, or maybe if it was vacated, it would have gone to the adjoining property, which would be the alley.
But Tim, am I understanding correct that the city owns the alley, not the orphan piece, but owns the alleys?
I don't know. I
we just
don't
go to the
understand.
alley?
That's not my understanding. The city has no jurisdiction over alleys. The alleys are semi-private, or however you want to describe it, owned by and maintained by the adjoining owners.
Then
So-
There's a right of way.
Could we look at possibly an easement or possibly an annexation of this orphan property to Lot 8?
Annexation, that's what I'd like to see. And I think that's
Yeah,
what the
and
owners would like to see.
Yeah, I think we need to find out how that orphan piece was created and or ownership, and see if we have to vacate it or dedicate it.
We did at Public Works a very cursory review. You can do it yourself online and look to see if there was ever a vacation of this piece of property. And of course, we couldn't find it. And Gary just said their office spent some time and they couldn't find. Did you contact the city clerk and had them do any research?
No, we had our title attorneys and
Okay.
their team researcher. What they came up with was the original subdivision plan, and I forget the name of it right now, forgive me, but the original subdivision plan had that road / alley there. And then when Warren Street came in, it just never, like, it never went anywhere. Like it you know, everything was truncated off right there at Luzerne where Warren Street came through. So that alley was already on the plans for everything, and it just never went anywhere. That's what we found.
It might actually involve, would it involve more than just an annexation? Would we have to do a subdivision? Is this part of a bigger piece?
Well, the original subdivision that was truncated back in the 30s by the Warren Street bypass, but it was never, those lots were never built on.
Mhm. Well, I don't know that we're going to resolve this today. I'm glad we brought it up. I'm glad Michelle is here to listen to this because we're going to need her help. But I think the objective is the same, is to get this piece and annex it to the alley so that it's now in the part of the alley. It now becomes a much wider piece of alley property, and it then will be treated as the alley would be treated, like you said. Whether it's an HOA or whatever you do, it would become part of the alley. I think that's the best way to resolve it. We just need to find the right legal way to get there. It looks like it's going to take a little more work to get there, but I think we're in the right direction.
Tim, are you comfortable with an HOA maintaining that alley?
I guess it would be the same as any other alley and how they're maintained. Because again, instead of it being 15 feet wide, it'll be wider. It would be variable on this end, the south end of the block, and then it would neck down to a 15-foot wide or whatever it is going north and south up to Lackawanna.
We put a note on the plan that the city has no responsibility to maintain this.
Right.
It remains an alley, and there's nothing.
It would be part of the alley.
And if I'm understanding correctly, guys, if the alley was just done and the way it is currently, it would be the responsibility of Unit 8 to take care of the entire alley in question. And then behind each unit, the homeowners on the normal alley in the city would be responsible for their own portion behind their homes. So that's why I was proposing a small HOA, simply because I wouldn't be hanging number 8 unit owner with the responsibility. I'd be diversifying it, but it would be beneficial for all 8 units.
That's a wonderful idea. I wish we could do that on a few other places too. Yeah, because no, it's not responsible. And they would probably deny responsibility and say it's the
Correct.
cooperative responsibility of everybody along this alley all the way up to Luzerne, which is kind of the intent of all alleys. But your idea with these 8 units, HOA, you're maintaining it because you got to park there. I
Right.
think that's the way to go. I'm in favor of it. As an engineer, I think that's a good idea.
Well, fortunately, this was the most complicated item on the review. The width that we talk about being either 15 feet to 20 feet, 20 feet would be desirable for two-way traffic. Actually, 22 feet would be the ordinance requirement, but 15 feet would be acceptable for one-way. So this still could operate as a one-way in and out if it is to be constructed and connected, or it can be looked at as a two-way if we can find a way to make it 20 feet partially paved or partially stone, because I don't think we're going to have a heck of a lot of competing traffic going back and forth.
Yeah.
To
And
Luzerne.
and 15 feet is actually wider than a lot of other alleys that we've seen in these planning commission reviews.
So I think we could work that out as part of the final plan on the one-way versus two-way.
12, so paved surface, 12 paved surface,
Yeah, we
So
would
why don't we do a
pay both at 15 feet. It would be, we could pave the entire back alley, and the one in question would be paved at 15 feet. And again, we would work with you on the 20. I just think, having been there and seen some cars parked there, I was thinking that the stone pad would probably be more beneficial for the residents than a 20 foot wide.
Gary, when you say stone pad, what do you refer to?
Just like a side, on a highway where you have the side, like the stones on the
Shoulder.
side.
You mean just gravel?
Sure.
Just
Gravel, yes, yes,
loose
gravel.
gravel. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the zoning won't permit gravel
Okay.
parking pads. It has to be unless you have an engineered, stabilized
Okay.
and that would be fine because that would give you some infiltration if you could do that. If you can come up with, and there are some out there, you're probably aware of them, stabilized, engineered gravel paving areas, paved areas or carports or that sort of thing, patios. If you want to propose that, we'd certainly look at that. But generally, just a regular stone gravel on the ground would not be acceptable. It's not allowed by zoning.
The minimum paving condition should be 15 feet consistently all the way through.
Yeah, that's what we'd like to do if the commission's okay with that.
You have 12 foot.
If he does, I apologize. He told me today it'd be 15 feet on.
Oh,
on
it
all
does
alleys
look
that we're
like
paving.
it does look like 12 feet. It's pretty small on my screen here, but it does look like it says 12. Yeah, it would be better
Yeah,
with
it got
15.
buried.
Yep.
I apologize. Would 15 be acceptable on the resubmission?
Yes.
We could talk about those. You could talk about those shoulders, then we all have to make a determination if it's one way or two way travel.
Okay.
So that takes care of most of the site accessibility issues. There are some other items on here that the applicant should easily be able to address. Curbs and sidewalks. There will be curbs and sidewalks along Luzerne Street along the frontage. We had asked the fire marshal to review the plan. There are a number of stormwater management comments, but they should be able to be resolved as part of this application. Applicant has provided in the rears of the property infiltration areas, BMPs for each one, best management practices. So we've had a similar project that we had a few years ago that were townhouses, and they were able to comply with the ordinance as well. So we could schedule a technical meeting to go over all these
I think that's,
little items too.
yep, good idea.
Other than that, the plan will require a erosion sanitation control approval. A municipal improvements agreement will be necessary, and a stormwater management maintenance agreement will be required. With that, we have plan was reviewed by the Berks County Planning Commission on June 16th, 2025. So this is again a preliminary plan application. Final plan application will be required as well.
I have one more thing.
Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, there was a question, I think, that came from Tom Ludgate about the number of EDUs. Gary, have you decided? I'm almost certain that Deb Hogue, who will actually manage any planning modules, will say you need one EDU for each unit. And since you have 8 units, you'll need 8 EDUs. There are 5 lots, so you're short 3. So, I mean, you could, I'm almost 100% sure we could have a side chat or emails with Deb, but I'm sure she's going to say you'll need approval for 8 EDUs. You could either do 8 or 5 and assume that each lot has 1 EDU already allocated. Either way, though, it's going to be a planning module on this one.
To the raw wall, to the sewer.
No. Raw would be for the water. We're the
okay,
sewer.
right.
We're the sewer. And so for sewer reservation, you would need the 8 EDUs, 1 for each unit.
And would we already have 5 is what you're saying? So
It would be assumed, assuming you didn't have any other
right
planning approval. I don't think you would. You would have 1 for each. So you'd have 5. So you've got 5, you need 3 more. You could do that, or you could just apply for 8. Either way. In fact, it'd be best to talk to Deb Hogue about that.
Yeah.
She could direct you a little bit more. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I can guarantee you she's going to want to see 8 EDUs for the townhouse subdivision.
Okay, but would we get credit for the 5?
You could.
Okay.
I would recommend it, and I think she would too. Again, I don't want to speak for her. That's her thing, but I think she would recognize that too, because the DEP does. Oh, and when you do that, we want to see 8 separate sewer lateral connections to the main in the street. Don't pair them up.
No, Tom was not doing that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah,
separate
they've
water
got
and
shown.
separate sewer for each property.
Great, good.
Yes.
Sounds good.
So they have all those, they have all the, conditions that are, the conditions are in the letter. If you have the option to grant preliminary plan approval, final plan will be required to resolve all these issues. If they cannot get access to, Luzerne Street for that 15-foot alley that we had a lot of discussion on, they still have the option to come along with Black Milana and gain access that way.
A lot of trees away.
They'd have to improve, they'd have to, but the 15-foot alley is shown at that location.
Was that Peter referring to the
But I think we
tree
can
out on
resolve the
Lackawanna?
alley.
I'm
Well,
sorry,
they never had, not like you, it looks like there's quite a few trees and,
There's some vegetation.
yes,
Yeah, in the alleyway going up.
if we were to
Oh,
connect, try to connect it to like,
right.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good point. It should be noted on the plan that would need to be cleared so that it's navigable, you know, that you can access it.
It's in the review.
Okay, good.
It's, that there would have to be.
so if it's a one-way, presumes that there's an entrance and an exit. So it would have to be there. If it was a two-way,
That'd be wider.
that'd be wider. So it is getting. Because it's.
Okay, I have comments. Resolve. Go over.
But it sounds to me like the city would like to have this property to convey it to that group of development and, you know, once we add any future responsibility, which probably sounds like developer would like that as well. So how do you do?
Does any of the other commissioners have a comment or a question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Will. I'd like to go back to that odd alley. I definitely think we do have to have a research of the origin of that parcel to the extent we can, you know, find any records. And what it was it part of the alley or part of some other parcel to decide whether it, because I'm not sure we'd be vacating. It'd be vacation, I think, if it were part of a street, but not if it were some other parcel. It would be just an annexation, I believe, would be the route. And let's also remember, the applicant mentioned an easement. Let's see if we can find whether or not there had been an easement, and if not, the city, of course, would need one if there is indeed, I guess there's a utility line that runs through there.
Yes.
The question arose on the homeowners association. The only other one I'm aware of is the one up at Castlewood, and that was private roads and no alley. But now those roads have been dedicated. Now our solicitor could advise, but I know this has come up before, and it's kind of a legally cloudy thing. The alleys are sort of like jointly held. They're private. They're held by the landowners, but it's not like there's a dedicated portion of each one. And this one is unusual. Yes, Unit 8 would be adjoining most of the alley, but it's the access. Basically, it's like a driveway for all the other units. So it certainly makes sense from the applicant's standpoint to include it all in the HOA to make sure there's no question that it's a joint responsibility and that it's maintained. Because it's a problem in our alleys when there's weeds growing, or part of the alley is you know, it's because sometimes they're paved. Well, they're usually paved, but it could be, you know, brick, concrete, whatever, and part is broken up. Well, whose responsibility is it to fix it? We have a city program where all the property owners can apply and pay But as far as any ad hoc, maintenance and plowing, there's no, city plowing and so forth. It really is just up to people just take the initiative, and as a result, sometimes they become impassable. So it does make sense to have an HOA. I mean, I don't think we have a legal process for one, but I would ask that would be something that should be put on the plan, or does it not need to be on? Whatever our consultant thinks would be best, or our public works, of course. Go ahead.
We would want to review the HOH agreement and ensure it's recorded and referenced on the plan.
That makes sense. That's what I was thinking. Very well. Yeah, because that would definitely be good. It would be to the benefit of everybody that it would be maintained. And again, it's another thing. It's another route for emergency access, possibly as well, especially if it's being widened like that. Okay, well, that was a very interesting. All these alleys are all different from each other.
If I could jump in real quick, I pulled something up I thought you guys had received, but I just realized I don't think, Tim, I don't think you got it. The plan was for Glenside, and it was submitted in September 1902. It was revised on 1922, and the property in question that we're discussing, that alley, was called Lehigh Street on the plan.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I can send that to you, Tim.
Yes.
I thought you already had that, but I can.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
That's what our research found. That's why we couldn't tie it to anybody, because it technically was a street/alley for the city in
Okay.
1902.
Yeah, that would be good to have that. Yeah, I appreciate that. And if you've got Chris Lovell's email in our engineering office, if you could send that to him too, as well as me. Thank you.
So, yeah, I think, Nelson, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm okay. Thanks.
Okay. Now, for preliminary plan approval, we usually require that, the submission for, the sewage module is started. However, we don't have that here. I think, we should get a little bit more research with what we have, table this and bring it back next month so that the applicant can do the submission for the sewer module. And plus work on this alley a little bit. I think that'll be the better way to go, and then also that way, I won't get any pushback from the rest of the Public Works Department. So with that, do I hear a motion to table? Okay, thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. Thank you, everyone, for your work on this.
So the applicant, we could do a technical meeting with the applicant. We can coordinate that with Public Works and the planning office. And it puts us in a little bit better position to consider. If you want to submit a revised plan, we can do that as far as July 8th for submission. So if you want to mark that on your calendar, if you can make a resubmission, we could take it up to that point.
Jerome, let's you and I, Simon and Tim, have a call.
Yeah.
with that, we will move on to the RAC Student Union Building expansion at the RAC campus. And I'll turn it over to Jerome for the introduction.
Yes, this was reviewed on June 17, 2025. This is a preliminary / final plan application. We've reviewed this at staff level on several occasions, and we've had one-stop sessions to discuss this project. So although the planning commission members may not be completely familiar with it, this is a improvement of a 4.34 gross or cumulative acre property on the RAC campus. It's on 25 South Front Street, but it's also going to be involving portions of 10 South Second Street and 45 South Front Street. Those parcels would be joined in common deed as part of this application. Once again, this is a preliminary / final plan, and it is for the expansion of their student union center in order to provide more opportunities for RAC students. The renovations are generally consistent with the CC, INS, and RR, which is the CC is the commercial core, the INS is the institutional, and the RR is the riverfront. The applicant has demonstrated compliance. As part of that, we had asked that the applicant also submit some architectural renderings, floor plans, and building elevations with respects to this project. One of the biggest items on this is comment 7, which is in respect to the property is located within Zone AE, which is part of the FEMA floodplain. The information is depicted on the plan, and I provided you a supplementary view of where the flood elevations are along this stretch. They did apply for relief on the flood elevation level for a non-residential use, which is under section 600-1823B1. However, they must still comply with the provisions that are specified under section 600-1823B4, which is for floodproofing regulations with respects to the areas that are, well, the entire area that is this project's involved with. Tim will be able to provide you with a lot more detail on this, since Tim is the floodplain administrator. So we provided other additional comments that we want noted on the plan. So these are generally notes on the plan. And if the applicant does have any inconsistency from what Tim has done the research and verified, they cannot get relief under number 7B. Moving forward with this, the existing features and demolition plan should be reviewed by the Building and Trade Center. There will be some areas of this property that will be demolished in order to accommodate the new building. In terms of site accessibility, parking, and loading, we did have a few items that should not be a factor for this project. Some other highlights on this is a sanitary sewage planning module. Again, may be required for this project. The applicant would need to submit the proposed, the planning module for this project if it's necessary. I believe it is, or that it was determined that it was submitted. It was submitted. Okay, good. There are some stormwater management comments that we did have a technical review already on this for this property, and we've gone over these comments with the applicant. There is a typo on 17I bullet point 2. You can eliminate that one from your list. The plan will need to be reviewed as far as erosion sedimentation control. We'd asked for some corresponding notes to be placed on the plan that we typically provide. This plan was required to be reviewed by the Berks County Planning Commission. I don't see a review letter at this point. You get a review? I didn't get a review letter. Other than that, this project will involve, a municipal improvements agreement and a stormwater management maintenance agreement. That basically summarizes the comments. Like I said, we did have a technical review with the applicant's consultant, and we're able to resolve a lot of issues. Tim, do you have anything on those floodplain issues?
Well, first, yeah, Public Works is in agreement with everything that was on the Hawk Valley review letter, including the floodplain comments and the planning module comments. Yes, we did have, I think, a couple of technical reviews, prior to this meeting. And the last one was on Monday with Paul Schmall from Barry Iset, who's the site engineer. And I think he's on this call, and maybe he can make some comments here. But the conclusion of that meeting was that he was going to request the architect to submit the certification of the flood proofing, which was this 600-1823B4 section of the zoning ordinance, which would still apply as it's stated in the review letter. And so that's really the only other thing. The only would be a follow-up, Paul, if you have some follow-up on that, and also the planning modules, which I believe we left that meeting that you were going to apply to the DEP for the forms, the planning module forms, so we could get that rolling.
Well, it's been applied to the city. We're actually waiting for your review because we need that back for submit to DEP. So it's
Well, the microphone.
I'm sorry, it's actually in your hands.
Yeah.
So we're waiting for your response, but we did get the comments. We made some adjustments. We're waiting for review from you guys before we submit to DEP.
What could you repeat that? It was hard for me to hear. You're waiting for what now?
We're waiting for comments from you or from the city review, because we have to get your comments from that so we can submit to DEP. So it's in your hands right now. And once we get that, we'll submit to DEP.
Okay, so what are you waiting for? What comments do you need? I mean, right now we would need to see it. Yeah.
Pass a resolution. In order to pass the resolution, once we get that resolution, then we can submit it to DEP to get their final approval.
Well, the
We
resolution
submitted
would,
everything.
yeah, the resolution would come after you get the initial EDU requests and all of the flows and all that information.
We already did that.
Oh, it was?
Already been
Oh,
done.
I'm sorry.
And we
I'm sorry.
submitted that. We got comments back, and
Oh,
waiting for
okay.
the resolution before we.
Have you been working with our engineer, Robert Roth, on this? Does that sound
I would
familiar?
have to check with our
Okay. Yeah,
from my office who deals.
Yeah, I thought you were further back on the process. I didn't realize that. So that was all done and
No.
it was submitted to the city for the next step. So I'll check with Robert and make sure that that's being moved along.
Perfect. And before we get to the floodplain, we also, as you mentioned before, section 600-142 for the exemption for rate control. We fall underneath
Yes.
that we'll be looking for as well.
Right. If for the benefit of the commission members here, that section of the stormwater management ordinance is for the exemption of a drainage plan. This is where if they meet the qualifications, the dimensional area that the net impervious increase area qualifications, they can apply for an exemption of the drainage plan for rate control, not for volume control. They still have to meet that, but for rate control. And Paul submitted that. They do qualify, and Public Works is recommending then an approval from the Planning Commission for the rate control. And that would be 505, you just said it, 505-142, section 142 of the Stormwater Management Ordinance.
Chairman, we are here on behalf of BRAC. We have our professional team here. In addition, by Zoom. Dr. Susan Looney, president of RAC, is present, but we have Mr. Deerstein, who is senior vice president for finance and administrative services. Bob Reed from Spiesel Architects is here, as is Ben Ross from Berkey Construction. So we're here and available to answer any questions that you have, and also to discuss specifically the issue of the floodplain and the design and redesign of the initial plan to get as much of the building and activities in the building as possible above the base flood elevation. But we are asking for some flexibility in that regard with the redesign that was used, moving the mechanicals, the electrical, and many of the functions in the building up to the second story, well above the base flood elevation. And again, our architect is present, construction and engineer are present to answer any questions that the commission or Mr. Kroll would have.
As I remember, when the new medical complex was put together, you were able to meet all the requirements there on the first floor.
We were able to use materials and methods of construction, which would have allowed, and which is what has been designed here, that would allow any flood water to simply flow through the building to avoid avoid property damage and to not raise the base flood elevation. And we want to do something similar here. There are areas that are not at the base flood elevation or below base flood elevation, but this could manage any of those problems. Again, this is in an AE zone, which is not a high risk area to begin with. It's very rare that floodwaters have even reached this property. However, again, there are means of construction, the wet flood proofing methods that are mentioned in the zoning hearing board decision, and are taken into account in the zoning hearing board decision, which could provide an alternative that is equally safe and is feasible and viable for this building. The floodproofing methods that are being contained in the Hawk Valley letter and that Mr. Kroll is requiring are inordinately expensive and will create further delays in the project and jeopardize the project and its funding.
Yeah, so what do you think about that, Tim? Because we were able to come to some sort of agreement on the medical building that used to be the Social Security office.
Yeah, well, couple things. I think I heard Joan say that there's going to be a redesign. So the design that we've heard described before is not going to be improved. Before there was going to be a ground floor and a lower level.
There was a redesign, and that redesign is what's before the planning commission and what was before the zoning hearing board. There was an initial design. Remember that the building itself was acquired by Reading Area Community College in 1994. It's a one-story building. The initial renovation was to the building as a one-story building. Because of the floodplain issues that were encountered with the White's Healthcare Pavilion, and again, being encountered here, the architects and engineers literally went back to the drawing board, designed at great cost a building that went up one story and put most of the functions, first of the electrical and mechanicals, on that second floor, as well as put some of the classroom space and some of the service offerings on the second floor, leaving on the first floor a fitness area and some of the other functions on the first floor, but moving as much as possible of the vital functions of the student union building to that upper floor above the base flood elevation. So that redesign in accommodation of the AE floodplain has already been done. Again, it added cost to the project, but we believe that that was the best means of having a safe building, a viable project, and meeting as many of the requirements as RAC could do. But remembering this is a pre-existing building and that needs to be improved. There is a renovation project that is in place. And again, the floodproofing that is being advocated by in the Hawk Valley letter and by the city engineer's office is just not viable.
May I make a comment to, is that okay for me?
Ken Dearstein.
Ken Dearstein, Senior Vice President of Finance Administration, and you're right on. You've got a better memory than I would. But there has been one instance of any kind of flood damage that I'm aware of since the 19th Agnes. That was in 2006. The only damage to that building, or most of the damage, I should say, to that building was where the current fitness center is, and that sits down below grade. That will be above grade now. But that was only $90,000 in equipment cost. It wasn't even building related costs. The $19.4 million White's Healthcare Pavilion that you're referencing was done with what Joan, and what you remember, but what Joan has said too, moving the mechanicals, putting not flood proof, but wet flood proof in, and mitigating in those ways. But again, we don't have, we're in the floodplain. Our entire campus is in the floodplain. Do we get flooded particularly any more with the dam being managed the way it is? No, it's not significant. So the cost that we talk about, though, I think you need to know that we've already incurred is for about $2.5 million. Didn't incur, I shouldn't say that. Will incur because we are now building a 2-floor building rather than the 1-floor building. We are eliminating about 12,000 square feet of impervious ground because it's now 2 floors, not 1 floor. We've tried to be proactive and help out here, but like anybody else, we have limited funds. Anything else, any more costs here, and these would be significant and also delay the project quite considerably too. Those costs fall on our students. And we all know our students don't have a lot of money. We provide an economical and value-added education for our community and help the city out quite a bit by doing so, as well as the county. So I am quite passionate about what we do and about what we're trying to do to improve our campus. This project would improve flood issues and mitigate it, even if there was a flood, mitigate that damage. So thank you. I really appreciate you all hearing what we have to say and considering.
And I'd like to add in, if you don't mind, this is Dr. Susan Looney. Thank you again for this opportunity. We do appreciate it. But I do just want to add, for those who are not as familiar, that RAC is the largest higher education institution in Berks County. We serve over 8,500 students. And of those students, more than 50% of those students live in the city of Reading. We are also a very proud Hispanic serving institution. Over 43% of our students are self-identified as Latino. So we are the community's college, and this project is an investment there we are willing and happily willing to do to serve our students to make sure they have increased support services, but also retention will be added as well as increased graduation rates because of the space and the collaborative way students will be able to use it to study. My point is, what we ultimately do is educate our community. And as many of you know, our students, I'd say almost 80% of them receive federal financial aid. They, in many cases, are on SNAP or economically disadvantaged, but once they come to RAC, we change their entire life by getting them good paying jobs, and they end up contributing to the tax base versus taking from it. So while that's a big picture, I think it's important to realize that we are trying desperately. As Ken shared, we've already redesigned, and Joan shared, we've already redesigned this once for the cost of a few $1 million to go up. We want to play this, we want to do the right thing, we want to follow the rules, and but we also want to make sure that you realize that we are investing in our community. We are vested as part of our community, and I share that just to make sure that everyone knows that I truly believe we're all on the same page. And I really hope we can come to some common ground on this, because we just want to make this better for our students and our community. Thank you for letting me share that.
So that we're clear here, what's the difference between what you've designed and what is specified here in 7B on the review letter?
So I'm Bob Reed with Skills Architecture. Thanks for the time. Consistent with what we did, it was approved at White's, which you had referenced. Thank you. Instead of knocking down the building and building it 2 feet higher, or potentially ripping out all the exterior walls and designing them to handle floods, keeping the flood out. We designed to, instead of dry flood proofing, a wet flood proofing, which would allow water to flow in and out of the building, so that all the materials on that floor could get wet and get dry and not have substantial damage. All the finished materials, the insulation, the metal studs are galvanized, and all the electric and HVAC units are up on the second floor. So originally we had designed it all as a 1-story building. We didn't think that there was going to be much likelihood of getting approval of that 1-story building through zoning. So we thought it's much more responsible to look at how do we put as much as possible on the second floor, so that a lot of the uses are above that base flood elevation, which basically we are 5 inches. Our ground floor is 5 inches below the base flood elevation, so it's very close. Looking at that, we also feel that then there is no potential for rising the base flood elevation, because the water can flow in and out of the building. Whereas if we raised the whole building, we could have afforded to spend another $4 to $5 million to knock down the existing building and build that, as well as the rest of the addition. That actually would have raised the building up, and the foundations would have actually kept more water from flowing into past this space. We think that it's actually more safe in terms of region, to make sure that the base flood elevation for the region, for the area around the school and along the Schuylkill design rates.
All right. So, Tim, do you remember what we did to allow the White's building and Penske to do what they do?
Yeah, I wasn't involved with the White's Hall. I didn't have any participation in that. At the moment, I'm the acting floodplain administrator. Normally that would be the zoning administrator, would be the floodplain administrator and issuing those permits. And that's what happened then. So I wasn't really involved with that. But, and I was listening to Bob Reed, trying to listen closely. It's a little bit tough from the distance on the microphone here, but it sounds like, Mr. Reed, this has been redesigned now so that the ground floor, and perhaps even that lower level, that 2-foot crawl space or whatever it is, that is all now going to be wet flood proofed, and it will not be improved for habitation or use. Is that correct?
No, I think there's some confusion there. So then the existing building as it is now, the majority of the building is at the flood elevation or the elevation that's 0.5 inches below the base flood
Right.
elevation.
That would be the
There's
ground
another-
floor. Yep.
And then there's another portion of the existing building where the fitness center is that Mr. Deerstein was referencing that is approximately 3 foot lower than that. And we're removing that section of the building that's lower and the addition will be up at the ground floor elevation. So we are raising that portion of the building up so that makes it more safe. So that the area of the building that had flooded in the past will not be there anymore, being replaced at the higher elevation.
So let me understand that what you're saying is the portions of the building that are at or below the BFE, the base flood elevation, will be wet flood proofed, designed to be inundated, with flood water in
Correct.
accordance with the recommendations from FEMA and Army Corps of Engineer and the things that are referred to in the ordinance. Is that
That's
true?
correct.
Okay. That is different than what we had talked about, was it back in February, where it sounded like the first floor was going to be improved for occupation. And we were looking at that
The first
type
floor
of.
will be occupied. The first floor will be occupied. There's program space on the first floor, and then we're planning on wet flood proofing that area. Consistent with what was described to the zoning hearing board, the same thinking in terms of for this building as well as what we did at White's.
So you'll have occupied rooms on a floor that's below the base flood elevation.
Correct.
Okay,
And what
I'm not.
what are the programming will be in those spaces?
The first floor has lounge spaces, has some office space, has the fitness center that's now at the same elevation as the rest of the building on the first floor. There's clothing closet for donations to folks, and food pantry, and a esports computer room.
Well, it sounds like that'll be occupied then.
That was the
they will be
intention, yes.
occupied. Okay. And I want to remind everyone here, including the planning commission, because they may not be familiar. When you say Tim Kroll and Drumskintrowski, we didn't make up the ordinance. The ordinance is part of the city's membership in or coordination with the federal flood insurance and the national flood insurance policy. And it's regulations that came through the Department of Community and Economic Development through the state's PEMA, that's the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency, which eventually got all their regulations from the federal government through FEMA. So what you're looking at here, these regulations, this 600-1823 B1 and B4, all this is federal regulations. It's not coming from the city. We have to follow that, or we're in jeopardy of losing our cooperation with the National Flood Insurance Policy. And I've checked this with our local representative, our coordinator on the national policy, and he supports that. He says you want to make sure not only to protect the city and their enrollment, but you want to do it to protect the developer too. Because we could hand you permits and we can allow this thing and the board can approve everything, but eventually they're going to get inspected. And state will come in and inspect it. And if they find that there's a deficiency, then we have to mitigate. And that's not going to be fun, because it's always better to mitigate something before, in the planning stages, than wait until after it's built and have to mitigate something to correct what should have been done back in the planning stage. So we want to make sure that we do this properly at this stage. And the city wants to do everything we can to make this work. This is a great project. We want to see this work. And I think it will. But we want to make sure we're clear as to what's being provided, what you're being presented, and that it does meet the ordinance the way it's written. Joan, you mentioned that there was flood proofing in the zoning hearing board decision, and I don't see that. I think the only thing that was granted relief was for 600-1823 B1, which is referenced the base flood elevations, the vertical relief, and allowing the first floor to be developed below the base flood elevation. However, B4 talks about the flood proofing, and there they refer to W1 and W2 classes, which would be dry flood proofing. So now we're hearing wet flood proofing, which is not in the ordinance. So I have to do a little bit more work. I have to get some more details. Maybe we need another tech meeting, because now I'm hearing it's going to be occupied. So I'm still confused, John. And Bob, I'm still confused.
The zoning hearing board decision incorporates by reference findings of fact that address the construction as well as the elevation. And we just have the decision in front of me.
I do too.
In finding of fact number 19, if you look at 19 A, B, C, and A, B, C, and D, and particularly C and D, there are references to the proposed project contains the following measures to mitigate potential exposure to flooding. Evaluation by the structural engineer on the loads of the building and a determination that no improvements will need to be made to the building frame because the building will allow water to flow freely through the first floor of the building. And all construction and finishes on the ground floor will be redesigned to mitigate damage by water, such as walls of galvanized metal, glass, masonry, and water abuse resistant GWB, and use of paint suitable for water exposure. Those findings are incorporated into the decision that granted the relief. So it does incorporate by reference the wet flood proofing and does not require the dry flood proofing. It specifically recognizes the manner of and methods of construction that our architects and engineers have proposed.
It
Well,
says that they're proposing that.
Right, but it also incorporates, they're part of the findings of fact, and it's incorporated into the decision.
So I reviewed this with Ken Roberts, who is the coordinator for PEMA, and he said yes, there's an either or. You can waive, your zoning board can waive the elevation requirement, but then you would have to comply with B4, which is dry flood proofing. I mean, if you're proposing wet flood proofing of a developed space, he's basically telling me that would not be allowed. You still would have to comply with the B4, which is the W1 and the W2 class flood proofing. And it would require a certification. The ordinance says it has to be certified. I don't know, Bob, Mr. Reed, can you say that you would certify that part of the ordinance?
Sir, are you asking me if we're dry flood proofing the building?
Yeah, would you be able to certify based on that part of the ordinance, 1823 B4?
No, that's what we're saying, that we're planning to do wet flood proofing,
Yeah.
which is consistent with what the documents show and what we had testified in the zoning hearing.
Yeah, then
That's never changed from our position.
Yeah, the decision actually says to comply with all federal rules and regulations.
Yeah, and those are federal.
Yeah, and so how did RAC get around this? Well, number one, RAC promised that in the White's building, there would only be lounge areas. Now, this was a few years ago, so let me think about this a little bit. There would be lounge areas with no technical equipment, so that if a flood did happen, the things that would be contained on that floor would be easily removed. Well, if you're gonna have electronic equipment, computers, gaming systems, and all of that, that doesn't comply with what
They're
we
just
agreed with
computers.
on white.
They're just computers.
Yes, but that sets up a safety problem. Because now you have electronic components that possibly might not shut off if your electric breakers are not working properly, if flood does happen. That's why in the White's decision, we're only allowed furniture. And I think telephones, because telephones are low voltage.
The electrical system on the ground floor is trips as soon as there's a short in terms of whether it's water or whether there's some other
I've been in commercial business for 30 years. It's not 100%. So you're setting up a safety problem, and that's why in the White's decision you were only allowed low voltage equipment and things like furniture.
So if the computers on the ground floor were moved up to the second floor, would that alleviate that concern?
I would think that would alleviate most of the concern, but then again, as Tim is saying, you know, is that, you know, does it really comply with PEMA? We also need to take a look at Penske, because Penske is also in the floodplain. And according to their plan, the reason that they got their compliance is because they can open up one door on one side, one door on the other, and the flood just washes through.
And that's what's
the
being
wet.
proposed here.
And so there's actually 4 sets of doors on all sides of one on each side of the building that is intended to do the same thing.
Yeah, so I think the biggest concern here is that you're not following the precedents of White's and what was agreed upon with that floodplain administrator, because that was a different floodplain administrator at that time.
We do also we're considerably higher than we were at White's in terms of White's. I think, I don't remember the exact number, but it's feet that we were into the base flood elevation. In this case, the building's higher and is only 5 inches below the base flood elevation. So there was that, and also the history of just not having that building flood over the lowest elevation of the building.
Well,
that's being removed.
I can actually think of that building flooded twice in the past 25 years.
Which building?
So, Student Union building.
No.
Flooded in 2001 and flooded
Six.
in 2006.
6. I was there. I was working there in 2001. We didn't have a flood.
In Student Union.
You do know that if you make that decision that all of our buildings are in the floodplain, we can't renovate or repair or upgrade anything. You want us to move them somewhere else?
You did it in White.
You're
complied
not
with
telling,
that.
he complied, but we can't comply with that specifically for every building and take the electric out of every building.
The electrical
No, no,
systems and the mechanical systems are being moved.
The mechanicals are up like we did.
Yeah, the mechanicals are up like in White, and you will have to have some electric on the first floor. I understand that.
But the switch gear is actually on the second floor.
Yeah. But the question here is that if you're gonna have a gaming system down there with most likely 80-inch to 100-inch televisions, controllers, computers, and all of that.
It's high-tech computers.
Yeah, I understand that, but that significantly increases the chance for electrocution in the if a flood does happen, because of the type of equipment it is.
So would it help in terms of those two rooms that where there's a computer lab and esports room. Those were flood-proof within the building, so that because those are new walls that are going up, that we could flood-proof those two rooms.
First thing we'll have.
Yeah, if I could interject, if I could just add a comment, it's not a matter of, it's not even a matter of safety or, where the electrical, what we're trying to do is avoid a finding when Pima comes in and inspects. We want them to come in and inspect and have a clean inspection that they're going to find little, if anything, that doesn't comply with the federal regulations, 44 CFR, or that regulation that allows the building and the city to coordinate their federal flood insurance program. You want to keep your flood insurance program. You want to keep the rates where they are. You don't want to jeopardize any of that. That's the thing. You don't want to have to come back and now mitigate it afterwards, which is going to cost money. I think what I'd like to see, we're hearing discussions of what's going on, like doors are opening and there's computers I don't have a real good drawing or description or narrative of exactly what's going on here. Like Wayne was saying, for Penske, we knew what they were doing. We had a plan. We knew where the garage doors were, the doors open and the water goes through it. I don't really have that for the student union building. So maybe Bob, if you could send me something that describes better the type of flood proofing that's happening here. With the idea
Absolutely,
that,
happy to do so.
yeah,
And it is
the idea is we
consistent with
don't
what-
want to find it.
Tim, would your Pima contact be willing to do a technical meeting?
Better yet, site visit.
I don't know. Well, there's nothing to look at right now. I mean, it's just drawings. It's what's proposed is what we're basing the permit on. So I think if we had
once
a
you
better
receive-
description of what's going to be proposed, what's happening, and if you could, I'm not a building guy, I'm a site guy. I understand floodplain and flood damage prevention, but when it gets into the Army Corps of Engineers and W1, W2, W4 class building use, this sort of thing, that's more if you could help me understand how your wet flood proofing is going to meet the requirements for the flood insurance, that's really what we're looking for.
Tim, what additional details do you need? You have a set of very detailed drawings that Mr. Reed has given you. What additional detail do you need?
Well, I think we have.
We had the one-stop meeting that we had drawings, and then we had a follow-up meeting, technical meeting to talk specifically about this type of items. So we can provide whatever information you want, but we don't want the building to cost money to repair either. I understand in terms of your interest, in terms of making sure that Reading's protected, and we appreciate that, but we also want to make sure that RAC is protected so that what we're recommending is something that RAC can continue to operate even if it floods, and then it can drain out and dry out, and can continue to use the building. So that is our full intention.
Yeah, I think from the drawings I saw, I wasn't really able to tell, exactly how it would function. You were mentioning doors opening and wet flood proofing. If you could describe that or give me more definition as to what that is, so I can get a better understanding of how that'll operate. Because right now it still sounds like this is an occupied space. It's not a carport. It's not used for transportation, like stairways, which is typically what a W4 use would be for wet flood proofing. It's designed to get flooded because how FEMA interprets flooding. Any flood water that touches any part of the building is considered contaminated, like it was sewage. So if anything in that ground floor, carpeting, finished floors, walls, ceilings, desk, chairs, computers, whatever's down there, it's trash. And they don't want to see that in a claim. They want that avoided, mitigate it before it gets destroyed. That's what FEMA is after. That's why they don't want to see it developed in that sense. So it's hard for me to understand what's on the ground floor, what's being developed. It doesn't really meet the definition of wet flood proofing, which is basically a carport. A carport would be wet flood proofed.
Yeah, no, my proposal was Tim, should we organize another technical meeting where we can sit down, all of us, and comprehensively look at what was provided before, what improvements
Sure.
have been made, design and in relation to the decision given by the hearing board, so that we can make at least a conclusive argument.
No, I think that's good. That's a good idea, Simon. Yeah, I think we could have another technical meeting, and if they could, if RAC could understand what it's like with the city side, we have to comply with this ordinance. There's no more variances on the ordinance. That you've hit the max on variances. Can't move anymore because these are federal regulations. So what we need to see is help us see how we can comply with this, so a zoning, so that a floodplain permit could be issued and you guys can get started building. So I'm open for that.
Tim, while you're scheduling this meeting, would you reach out to your contacts and see if you get information, see if they would have any willingness to join you?
Yeah, that would be unusual for a state officer
That's why I said
to
that's
join
a
on
fair
a meeting,
statement.
but I can always ask. It would be better that if I could compile a question and ask them.
If we're able to meet via Zoom this way, we should be able to meet with Zoom, with FEMA via Zoom.
Yeah, if he's willing. I mean, he covers the whole state, so I don't know. The last time I sent him an email, I just asked him a simple question and he gave me a good answer. And as of right now, I still don't have 100% resolution from the answer that I received on what I'm hearing tonight. So I need to hear more so that I can relay more to him and maybe add some detail to the original question that he could respond to. I think that would be more beneficial than have him at the meeting, but I can try scheduling him.
Well, maybe reach out to him, see if he would be willing, and then in the meantime, have a technical meeting so you have better understanding in case you need to do a follow, in case he's unable to meet and do a follow-up.
So I think I will reach out to RAC, basically to try to organize the meeting. If you have enough days, that we can agree on, that should be good, so that we can move on from there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah. That works for me because I do want to see this work. But as I said, and as Tim's saying, it sounds like you're occupying a programming space, which the first floor of White's Hall is not supposed to be occupied with programming space. That's one of the things that was agreed upon when we did that building.
One of the other things that beneficial for this meeting too is we had some base architectural drawings that show elevations and show some of this base information that we're looking for. So we know which portions of the building are being impacted by this. We don't have that yet.
I think we have floor plans, don't we?
Not that we have.
Did we get floor?
Maybe
Am I thinking
building
of something
a
else?
Maybe building and trades.
Okay, yeah, the drawing I refer to is the elevation, front elevation, side elevation that shows the BFE, shows the lower floor and the ground floor and the relationship to the BFE. And then compliance with floodproofing. And when we met back in February, we were promised that we would get certifications for both elevation and floodproofing. So it sounds like that has changed. We're not going to get a certification for floodproofing. Am I correct there?
Sir, it's consistent with what we did with zoning and what we talked about at preliminary meetings, that we were intending to do wet floodproofing, which is what we're proposing. So it's consistent with what has been stated to the city in every occasion regarding this project. We at no point agreed that we were going to certify it was wet flood. That's never discussed, and we never proposed that. We proposed what we're proposing now.
I'm not going to argue that. I'm just looking at my notes and I'm seeing floodproof certification.
Yeah, Tim, I don't recall that either at the one stop. That was not mentioned.
Well, I wasn't the one stop. It was the February 10th meeting. That was the follow-up to the one stop. And we talked about elevation certifications and flood-proof certifications. But
Alright,
again-
with that,
Simon, you're gonna schedule.
Yes,
yeah,
I will-
we'll
I'll
have
check those out.
Simon schedule this meeting, because of course we can't, since we do not have a letter from the Berks County Planning Commission, we cannot do any approvals today. Does any of the commissioners have any comments on this?
Yeah, real quickly, Mr. Chairman, this as well. Just, I was just wondering, will this project or the construction phase thereof affect at all the proposed rerouting of the Schuylkill River Trail?
No, it will not.
No, it's on the opposite
Okay.
side of Front Street. Well,
That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
however, one thing that we can do is we can do the stormwater management waiver, is that correct, Tim? The
Yeah.
drainage plan for control?
Yes, that's the
From-
exemption request, section 505-142.
Just clarification,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
modification.
Modification, okay. Good. Okay. So do I hear a motion to grant the modification for the stormwater plan, for the, concerning the drainage plan for rate control, section 505-142?
So move.
Thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. We have our modification. How do I hear a motion to table? Peter, second?
Second.
Yeah, I'll second. Okay, Nelson will second that. Very good. Question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. We hope to see you next month with the updates. And we should be able to work out something, I'm hoping. So, we do appreciate you all coming in. And we hope to see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's floodplain. Yeah, you guys run in floodplain, aren't you? Like that.
We're on a hill. We're high on a hill.
Actually, that's one of the reasons I bought my house, because it's almost the highest elevation in Center Park. I was like, I won't have a problem here. Okay, next up, we have Mitsubishi Chemical land development plan. And I'll turn it over to Jerome for the update.
Okay, this plan was reviewed June 18th, 2025. This is a preliminary land development plan review of Mitsubishi Chemical and their improvements to parcel D. We have reviewed previous applications before, but this is in a different area of the site. We did receive a sketch plan, so this is now a preliminary plan application. It is the improvement of 4.9 acres. There will be a 13,780 square foot building addition on the site. The applicant is located within the MC zoning district. And one thing we just want to make sure is the the applicant should schedule a meeting with the zoning office to verify the types of manufacturing that will occur within the building, or storage activities or warehousing, just to make sure that we are in compliance. There is provisions of the zoning ordinance that this use is permitted by right, manufacturing, and then also if it's certain chemicals, it's by special exception. So we just want to make sure we're in the right category,
Okay, yeah, because the proposed addition is just strictly warehouse.
and we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, so there is no manufacturing.
Fire marshal's gonna want to know what's stored there, though.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We can provide a list. That's not a problem.
Okay, good, then I think we're on our way. Moving forward, we did have just a few minor site accessibility comments on the project. This was the first time we got to do a thorough stormwater management review on the project, and we provided some technical comments for your consideration. The applicant has indicated that there'll be no increase in employment composition or any need for additional flow, and therefore this sanitary sewer planning narrative would support that a planning module is not required.
We will provide that, yes.
Okay. Moving forward, we had asked the applicant to provide some additional notes. The erosion and sedimentation control plan would be required. Did we get a review from the Berks County Planning Commission?
No,
And
they had some issues with their new build.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I think that put everybody in delay.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, because I'm wondering why we hadn't got anything, and that usually happens within 30 days, and that I forgot that had happened, so.
For those who don't know, the south building where the planning commission, Berks County Planning Commission is now housed, isn't contaminated with Legionnaire's bacillia. So they're doing their best to take care of that problem in the water supply. In the water supply, I believe, yeah. I don't think it was like the original where it was in the AC source for the AC system. Yeah, right.
wow. So okay, so that's good to know.
It's been more than 30 days since you submitted to the county.
No.
I tried to give you an out.
Well, we submitted the plans based, on the requirement, which is 4 weeks before this meeting, but I don't know when, I can't honestly say when the city submitted.
So yeah, those remaining issues are just municipal improvements agreements required, stormwater management maintenance agreement. What we could do to expedite the project for the applicant is possibly just consider a preliminary / final plan approval maybe next month with the submission of a revision of the plan, to maybe shorten up the comments, and then that way we have something that's,
All right.
the county's gonna have the review by then.
Yeah, so, yes, that was the one thing I was gonna ask. Can we do a joint preliminary final? I think, other than the minor comments that are here in the stormwater items that we need to clean up, I think it's pretty clean. We do need the county letter, and we resubmit, it would be include the cost estimate as well for the financial security. So we could put all that package together. And did I hear you correctly to say that we would give it to July 8th?
July 8th.
Okay,
Yeah, since this is a revision, we have some time to work.
okay.
Do you have our sample agreements?
I'm sure I do somewhere.
Okay, if not, send me an email and we can, if you want to, I'll make sure you have them. Those one step closer.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm sure we have a copy, but if I can't find it, I'll let you know. Thank you.
Now that we know we have a clear path from the zoning aspect of it, we'll just confirm that with the zoning office. You'll just note on the plan that it's going to be utilized for storage, and then these are, if it's a confidential issue, then you just supply the list to the zoning office itself.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, and I know that there have been some emails regarding the fire marshal, and I know that Species kind of reached directly to them. And we did get some information from the arborist, so we'll take care of that.
Yeah, I think we're in good shape on that.
Yes.
So, yeah, do you have any, comments, Tim?
Just a couple. Again, agree with everything from, Hawk Valley. Scott, would it benefit, or are you proposing on your stormwater management rate control in addition to the volume control for the ponds?
Yes.
Would
Yeah,
it
we're gonna
benefit,
Provide the calculations.
right? Do you need to, would it benefit, or have you looked into an exemption for rate control?
I guess we could ask for that. I'll double check with the engineer to make sure that we can.
Yeah, we have no
that would
problem
be an option.
using that. I mean, that's the
Okay.
way, the reason it's in there is it makes it your job simpler, our job simpler, and actually works better.
All right, yeah.
I mean, there's nothing
I'm
wrong
okay
with
that.
meeting rate control, but the exemption would allow you just to avoid the rate control, because you're basically going to be, in and out. You're just trying to get it off the site, but you're also,
Okay.
going to be required to comply with the volume control. So yeah, look at it, see what
Okay.
you want. What you want to do is look at the lot and the number or the amount of impervious since 2000, or I should say prior to 2008. That establishes the impervious. So I don't know if there was something there that was removed, or it's or if anything has been developed since then, we'd have to look. But I don't think this lot has been developed since 2008, has it?
Just the other parking area from the other plan.
But that's on a different lot.
Actually, it's on this lot.
Oh, it
It's
is.
the front. The building.
Oh,
was
the
on a
front
different
parking lot, not the one we looked at behind.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, because we'd have to
So-
include that into it. That would have to be added
Okay.
in. Anything since 2008 would have to be included as net new impervious, assuming there was a net, But if you want to look at it and you think it might give you a benefit, you're welcome to apply for an exemption request.
All right, thank you.
And just a reminder for the stormwater management, there is a review fee. So I think we've had this before for the other one and the other ones that you've
And
done.
I knew that, and I'm sure we paid it.
Oh, you
So,
really? Okay. Sometimes I don't
yeah.
see it. Did
Okay,
it?
yeah.
If you could
It
just check
should
to
have
make
been
sure.
submitted. Okay, yeah, because it should have been submitted to the zoning office, because I know that you had brought this up last time. So I
Mhm.
made sure that we went to check submission.
Okay. I'll double check on my end too. Very good.
Okay, yeah. And I'll double
And,
check on mine as well.
Right. And then you're going to send the narrative on the planning module, like you said. Okay.
Yes, correct.
That was it on my end.
Okay. Very good. My only question about this, just as a theoretical, Tim. Does the city still want to hold on to that last portion of Belmont Avenue? Most of Belmont Avenue was vacated, but there's still a 130 foot section, it looks like, of Belmont Avenue that goes into their property that's still marked as city.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it. I'm not familiar with that. I
It's
mean, I
on
know
the-
where Belmont Avenue
it's
is.
on- It's
It's
on
their
page-
main entrance coming in off of Crescent Avenue.
Okay. Yeah,
The remaining portion of Belmont on the property was vacated.
Yeah, why would the city want to own that? That's a good question.
yeah, and it's not something we necessarily need to take care of now, but it might be something that we want to think about.
Yeah. Does that show, Scott, on the drawing?
Yes, it does. On sheet 1.5,
Okay.
1-50. It's an overall property plan.
Yeah, and it's also a little bit of it shown on page 5 of the review, which I took a snapshot of that portion.
Yeah, let me look at it. I'll get back to you on it.
Okay,
Would your client be willing to take it?
I'd have to ask them.
Okay.
As long as we don't have the delay from, yeah, the situation. So if we can handle it separately as a agreement later on, that's fine too, but I think.
Well, if we're gonna be vacating a piece of a street that hasn't been vacated, that we'd have to do that as a land development, I think. Is that right, Michelle?
Why-
Well, it would definitely be easier because the plan would already show it.
Okay.
Right.
All right, well, let me
Yeah.
talk to him. Let me talk to
Yeah.
Stacey about it.
Yeah, I guess the question too is why wasn't it vacated before? Why did they leave that piece? What was the reason for that? It's before my time.
Yeah, so anyway, I just bring it up, but I don't want to hold up,
No, it's a good
Plan.
question.
I just thought about
Yeah.
it this morning when I looked at.
No,
this.
that's a good
It's
question.
vacated in 19. One section was 1954, the other was 1961.
Hmm.
Can you bring that up just again real quick? Or other doing the property owner or no?
No, it's just that,
Okay.
it's their main entrance,
Oh,
but for some reason, the city still owns
It's like
this
a little
bit.
stub.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
okay.
Yeah, and I don't know why. And it's a good question. And if we don't need it, it really ought to be part of
Yeah.
Mitsubishi.
Yeah.
I guess-
Makes sense.
Because
So-
technically we got to plow
Yeah.
that and pave it. I'd rather not. I'd rather not have
I'll
to do
remind
that.
them of that.
No, don't.
It's a good question, Mr. Chairman. It's funny you're asking that because it's good you observed that because I actually had a similar question about one of the plans coming up later in the agenda, similar situation. So it's definitely something we should look at.
Very good. Let's hear, does any of the commissioners have any other questions?
Oh, just real quickly, please. I'm just curious, north of where the proposed expansion is, in your setback area, I've been wondering, is that a garden or is that some kind of a retention pond area? What is it that, if you don't mind me asking, what is that seems like you're growing there?
Yes, it is a garden that they had provided for their employees, but it is being removed as part of this project.
Oh, it's being removed. I was wondering. Okay, because I heard
Yeah,
something about
yeah.
the settlement
It's
pond,
existing.
and yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Will. You just dropped out for a second.
Oh no, I wasn't sure if that was being retained because I heard some mention of the pond, and I wasn't sure if it was connected with that or not. So, can you hear me?
Yes, Will, thanks. Okay, with that, do I hear a motion to table? Yeah. Peter? Second?
Second.
Thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good.
All right,
So we'll see you next month,
I
Scott.
do have one question that I
Yeah.
just thought of. One of the comments indicates that an easement should be provided around the stormwater management facilities. Can we do a blanket easement? Okay.
Absolutely.
Tim, I'm shaking my head, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, okay,
We'll never
All
turn
right.
down a blanket easement.
okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
I have a related question. It's not about the project, but it's right there in the neighborhood for Public Works. If you would know this, I'm just curious on the north side of Crescent Avenue, the curbing is painted green. I mean, I know what every other color means. What does that mean? Do you know?
Green is traditionally a loading zone for loading purposes. It's right across the street. So it's for loading. It could be for buses. Alarm text suppression Inc.
It's not the Mitsubishi parcel. So I was
No,
just
no,
curious.
it's
That's why I
across the
didn't bring it
street.
up. Yeah, that's why I didn't bring it up till we were done with the plan.
So the sign
Mhm.
there, Will, is 20-minute drop off and pickup zone. 8 AM to 5 PM. So it's a loading zone. It's green for loading zone
Okay.
spaces.
Okay, well, I learned something. Thank you.
Yep.
That's good for the public to hear too.
very
They don't
much.
park, they don't
Very
park
good.
in them.
Well, and if this is getting out to the public and you see a loading zone and it's not being used, we'd like to know, because there are some out there that are not being used and probably should be removed so they could be opened up for public parking. But we don't keep a full inventory, and we just don't have the staff to survey this. So it's good you brought it up, because now, if somebody knows of it, give us a ring, let us know. We'll look into it.
All right, well, thank you.
Stuff, we have the Reading School District with their Central Middle School Athletic and Auditorium Facility Land Development Plan. The gentlemen were here last week and gave a really great presentation, so I'll give the floor over to Jerome.
Yeah, the purpose of was just for follow-up discussion and questions. We know that the planning office is, the zoning office is looking into what relief may be granted or was granted in the past. Goes back to the 2006 zoning hearing or decision, when it was converted from the hospital to the school. So we need to go through that just line item by line item to see what applies to you, and therefore, if things are covered, then there'll be no need for additional zoning variances. We also thought it'd be a good idea, since Tim was here, was to assess what Buffalo Alley was. Tim, I had the alley name wrong in my review letter.
Yeah, I know which
said
one you meant.
Buffalo Alley.
Buffalo Alley. Yep.
And let's ask it right now. Do you know what the purpose and intent of Buffalo Alley was?
If you're asking me, I go back to that original plan. I was the engineer. I was the one. It's my seal on that plan. We couldn't figure it out. At the time, it didn't get in the way. It was used for access to the parking lot at that lower level. And so we left it there, but it is an alley, and it appears now that it will need to be vacated, since it looks like that's where the new building's going to go.
And the other question, Tim, was what we're a little concerned about fire and emergency access through Locust Street, because there's parking on one side of Locust, from what I understand. It's been a long time since it's been out there. What would it take to vacate parking on Locust Street?
Ordinance, or no parking.
Yeah, that would be the best way. Yeah, because we'd have to erect signs, and putting up the signs is the way we've interpreted the ordinance, would have to be officially authorized by city council. That gives us the authority to stick signs on a public street for no parking.
And would the school district petition for that, or?
Anybody can. I mean, the city can too, but it would be good if that's what the need is. It's always good to have that.
The other thing that came up was improvements along Clifford. And if Locust would also need to have any improvements. They are providing a point of, they're doing a modification to an existing parking facility along Clifford. The new building will have frontage along Clifford, but mostly along Locust. So we were contemplating what improvements can we consider in that area as well.
Well, Clifford is an alley, so yeah, and I don't think they did any improvements when they did the Citadel. They did
Clifford
do.
Identified?
Pardon me?
Is Clifford identified as a one-way alley?
Typically, alleys do not designate direction, and a lot of times you pretty much have to let them go both ways, because that's the only way for people to get in and out. As far as I know, I've never seen an alley showing a one-way direction. But sometimes you'll see it marked in the field as do not enter or, one way. I'm just saying on the official, and it's not official, the alley drawing. The street drawing is official. The alley drawing is for informational purposes. It's not really official.
And another thing that came up was there are steep slopes on this property. However, a lot of them were created when the hospital was approved, as well as when the initial modifications were made for the school itself. The area of disturbance where this is going to be created, we're not. I don't think it's problematic for where the proposed building is going to be. It's where the proposed parking area is going to be. And we had asked that the applicant do a topographical assessment to verify if it's going to be man-made or if it was a result of naturally occurring steep slopes. And this is just a small portion of the off-street parking area that they're creating on the site. You have a lot of
Okay.
familiarity with this. We said that what are your thoughts on the man-made
Yeah.
steep slopes versus the natural?
There's so much of it there that has been affected by prior development that I would think that there's probably not much left that would be considered natural. Is this along Clifford Street? Is that what you're talking about? The green space?
This is along the west side of Locust. And it goes back to
Yes.
there's residential homes further west of it. This is an
Yeah.
area that was not developed in the past, but you can tell it was disturbed.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be good to do a little historical. I have aerials that go back to the 30s, believe it or not. They had airplanes back then with cameras. And I can look back that far at aerials to see if there was any development, and they're online. You can do that. But that helps too. Yeah, it's the grass. Is it lot 2? Is that what we're talking about? Or actually, that's lot 2. That was on my drawing. Let's see, I have to get your drawing.
Yeah, it's.
I don't have the.
If I may, my name is Bob Hayes. I'm from CHA Consulting, so I represent the owner. We have the architect and civil engineer, but I just want to point out that we have taken geological testing there. We've done borings. There's 2 of them over on that side of the street.
Oh, good.
We don't have the results yet back,
That'd be part of that topographical assessment I was
Correct.
looking for.
so we have done that.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Wow. So
And I can tell you that the driller told me more up where the building is, that the first 10 feet was rock till he got to soil. So it's fill of some sort, to your point.
It's beneficial for you. So we'll have to we're still have to check on the zoning hearing board's decision. If you have a copy of it, that would be fantastic because the staff could not find it.
Oh, really? Is that right? They couldn't find the zoning decisions from 2008 or 6? I guess it was 2006. Yeah, 2006. If you can't find that, let me know. I'll go back to SSM. SSM was the one. In fact, the gentleman that was there at the end, Scott Miller, probably look it up and look in my old files and see if we can find those decisions, because I'm sure they'd be at SSM.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. I forgot to look at that. That'd be very helpful.
I wonder if the district.
That's also a possibility, oh God, can't remember the gentleman's name.
Wayne Garris?
No, not Wayne, gentleman who heads up buildings and grounds for new construction.
Luke?
No, he used to work here at the city.
Franco.
Yes, yeah. Is he still at the?
Yes, he is.
Oh, really? Oh, he might have it. So, yeah.
Yeah, he would have it.
Yeah, and so do you gentlemen have?
at the city during the Citadel
Yeah, because I don't know.
Yeah, he was here at the city during that work. Yeah. Do you gentlemen have any other questions while you're here, since you were so patient in Waiting,
You guys got an A+ on that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a Buffalo Alley.
This, just sketch it's shown on the whole house.
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions that we haven't already asked in the workshop.
Yeah, so, luckily, like I said, Finn's here and, I will, I think maybe the thing to do will be for me to get in touch with the fire marshal and talk to him about the parking on Locust Street and coordinate ordinance with Michelle so that this won't hold up you guys. Because I'm sure you want to get this in by next school year.
Well, if we're gonna do the ordinance, we should also address the alley vacation at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think we realized won't be in by the next school year.
Okay.
Land development, what did we say?
Oh, that's right.
September,
Starting in
October?
February.
Can we start construction next spring?
Yeah,
But it won't be through land development by the.
Yeah. Awesome. Maybe we can get an ordinance through the end of the year.
If we can, we have another issue, so yes.
But yeah, I think your next hurdle is just to, let's do some research, verify that there's no zoning relief that's gonna be required. I think we're gonna be clear on steep slopes, that's one hurdle, and then it's just really setbacks and coverage requirements. For each of those parcels, mostly the one that's east of Locust. We're gonna be concerned about the
And
most.
vacating of Buffalo out.
Yep.
Because that's a process also.
Yeah, that is a process, so. Yeah,
But that we're talking about accomplishing with the ordinance for no parking simultaneously.
yeah. We
Yeah,
should do
you'll
that
get-
simultaneously.
You're going to get the no parking faster than you're going to get the vacation. So it would be two separate ordinances.
You were pretty quick to vacate that property to the guy that just left.
Oh,
What are we, chop liver? I mean, come on.
our part's easy. It's
can
getting
only-
into city council. It's hard.
That's the trick.
I see.
Yeah, because you have to have a reading, then it has to sit for 2 weeks. And then they have to have another reading, and then they can do it. So it's a month-long process.
Are there any other adjacent property owners?
Or Locust.
Buffalo?
No, Buffalo.
No, not surrounded.
Okay, so
They
they
don't
should
get
go.
on both sides.
Yep. Yeah,
It's-
there are some adjacents on Locust, and I don't know if they're going to object or not. I don't know if they use that for parking. Obviously people park there, but I don't know how that's going to impact the locals.
Further up, I think it might be an issue, but in this stretch, I mean, it was undeveloped before, I don't think there was a park.
Locust is only 16 feet wide.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's not very wide.
Oh,
It-
It's a narrow road.
It may be,
Curve.
yeah, you may not even legally be able to park on that street.
So that's what the park area is. Yeah, there is some, I take that back, there are parts of Steep Park there.
Yeah, so it would be good to
Yeah,
get them
not
over
much.
there. Because the school district has a policy. When they're not using their facilities, you're allowed to park in their parking lots. So it's sort of a benefit.
Yeah, that's a bet.
Right.
That's not sort of.
Well, yeah,
I'll take you to Reading High right now and show you that benefit.
yeah, I mean, as I was saying to. As I was saying to my colleagues earlier, it was actually harder to walk the 3 blocks to my car uphill because of the heat than it is to conduct the meeting today. Even though this one's an extremely long one.
Yeah, I have a flashback to 2006 and 8.
Well, we used to get out at 1 o'clock in the morning.
We broke a record with architects at a meeting.
Yeah.
Simon, if we're unsuccessful finding the decision, or can I suggest check the property file, the building file, and the fire? Just because it's such a big project. that could have been disseminated, so.
Okay, right, I would agree with that.
And planning, I don't check plan.
And just back to that parking lot, I was gonna say that, yes, that new parking lot is proposed for the ESL that now park on the street.
Yep.
So during the day, they can park there, get parking off the street, and then in the evening, when it's vacated, then the public can park there.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, so I think this will be a benefit, real benefit to get clear the parking off the Locust and then,
Did that with one of your other projects too.
We did, Amanda Stout, we got restricted parking between school hours on Muhlenberg and Spruce.
I think you did it with the STEM school too.
How it's possible? Wouldn't know that one.
oh, yeah. Yeah, I think on Moss Street.
Yeah,
There's special.
I think 6 PM to 6 AM was their, something like along those lines.
The ours is something like 7 to 3 or 4 AM. 7 AM to 4 PM.
Oh, yeah.
So,
On Spruce and Muhlenberg. Yeah. So the neighborhood, parks there when they go to work.
so, thank you, gentlemen. We really appreciate you coming in and I hope that, we were able to answer, be clearer on some of our questions and answers.
I have a couple of
Yes.
questions or comments, if I may, please.
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Oh, thank you. And I'm in favor of the project and the parking restriction on Locust and all that. Okay. The building that I think it's a daycare center presently on the northwest corner of Locust and Walnut Streets. Before its construction, I'd say up to the early 2000s, which was before this project originally began, before my time on the school board, there were some houses there, historic houses that were taken down. But anyway, one had been a log cabin, in fact, originally. And you'll notice the boundary of the Penn's Common is just around that, because that was done prior to the creation of that historic district. So I believe, and of course, the research into the aerials will probably show that that area there on the west side of Locust was probably the rear yards of those. There were at least 2 houses there. But we'll see. Okay, what I'm a little confused on is how would the city be vacating Butler? If it's an alley, I'm sorry, Buffalo Alley. If it's an alley, do we own it, or how can we vacate unless we own it?
That's a
what I'm
good
trying to-
question. That is a good, we get into the same situation that we had with the Mitsubishi Chemical. Michelle, you remember that? There was an alley.
Yes,
Mitsubishi owned both sides and we had the same question. That is a really good point. The city doesn't own it. It's not a street. So that is correct. There is nothing to vacate because they're not legally owned by the city and the city has no, jurisdiction over the alley. I think we would have
So
to
we
do
would
to
just
look
need
back.
to,
No
go ahead.
improvements. And no improvements like this one.
I can't hear. I guess we'd have to research that. I can't hear people away from the microphone.
The alley
Sorry.
that went through the alley went through Mitsubishi was not an improved alley. It was just a grass strip. So it was not used for an alley. This is the same thing. This is a area that's just not been.
Well, it's
developed
used to
as an alley.
access the parking. They do use it to act, but it's the school district that owns it. So they're in control of it. And they're the only ones that use it.
So easement on it whatsoever.
So when you try and pop this up and see who owns it on the tax maps, you can't open it.
There may be an easement. There is a storm pipe that runs through. There's an inlet on Clifford, and I think there's a line that runs through Buffalo Alley. We'd have to check to see how that runs.
Look at it, but I think it goes north. It actually points, the point that's visible appears to go northeast.
Yeah, you'd
No,
want to check
underneath
that to see it. If it functions to the south, it drains the school district. So you'd want to see if that's a benefit to the school district. But that would be the only thing that I would think of as far as an alley is concerned. Or I'm sorry, an easement through that alley. That, for the city.
Okay, so
Yeah,
we'll have to
look,
get,
see if
go ahead.
there's anything that we need to do to get it off our alley map or anything like that.
We just make a
Yeah, and
note.
I don't think it's on, yeah, I don't think it's on the alley map either,
Okay.
but it is on tax, tax parcel ID maps.
I mean, I remember these coming up in 2006, but we
Yeah.
didn't get into the details on it at that time, so I don't remember. But
Yeah.
okay, but one thing is true. Just because something's called an alley or a street doesn't necessarily mean that it is one or the other,
Correct.
respectively.
There are a few,
So
yes.
it's confusing. So
It is.
So my question then is Clifford Street actually an official alley? Is that just
It
wanna
is
make
not a
sure.
street. It is an alley. Yeah.
It isn't it? Okay. All right. I mean, it's always something with these. It's always, like I say,
I
each one
know.
is different. Okay.
Yep.
Let me see what else I was going to ask. Okay.
Like Mill
Well,
Street.
while we're on this sort of similar subject of, not on an alley, this is like the question that you asked, Mr. Chairman, in the previous plan about Belmont Avenue. I know the southernmost part of Birch Street had been vacated by the city, but I'm
Yes.
noticing on the map and satellite that part of the northernmost part of, I guess that's the 200 block of Birch Street, still appears. Is that an artifact? Had that not been vacated? What purpose?
It was
I have to wonder
vacated.
for what purpose?
Yeah, no, it was completely vacated between Walnut and Elm Street. So
So
if
that's
there's
just
a,
okay. Go
are
ahead.
you seeing a
Okay.
remnant on like Google Maps or something?
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
So that's all that is. That's what I would have thought. I was surprised to see that because my thought was that it had been completely vacant. I
no,
couldn't remember.
it's gone. Yeah, no, there are easements, there are utility easements, but the
right,
street is
right.
vacated, yes.
Right. Okay. Because there used to be a bridge over the street,
Oh,
and it was a thoroughfare. And then prior to this project, it was vacated. So okay, so we don't need to worry about that then. Great. Okay,
Nope.
I think that's everything.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Okay, very good.
Nope.
Since this is sketch plan, we don't have to do any formal vote. So once again, thank you for coming in. I hope,
I do have one further question. So item K on your agenda, and I know we approved the agenda, but that has to do with the school district also. Stenthal, not my project. I'm trying to text my colleague, what's the status of what is that for? Is there anything I can take back?
So what we're doing is we're evaluating, and the engineer for that project is aware of this. What we're doing is we're reducing the escrow account. It was never approved, it was approved but not recorded. So the land development plan was approved, not recorded. Stormwater management maintenance agreement approved, never recorded, and the municipal improvements agreement approved, never recorded. They're 80% of the projects is now complete.
Right.
So we're looking at, 70%. So yeah, about 70%. So we're looking at reducing the value down to its current value, but retaining 15% of the original construction cost for maintenance, and just making the adjustments to that, and then having that approved and recorded.
Okay, pretty much standard operation.
So we went through that detail last month, and I think they're still working on it. But that's where we're at.
Okay.
Yes, but because of the project got so far completion before we got to the agreements, we're just providing for the agreements.
Did we give them a
Giving
reaffirmation?
them credit for the work that was already done.
Did we reaffirm approval on that last one by chance? Right.
We did everything except for, I think, the financial security for that. There was one outstanding issue we
Did
didn't have.
we do the reaffirmation? We could do them at the same time next month. They still have to go through the same process.
Yeah, we can, your reaffirmation is free, so yeah.
Yeah. So that's what, that was what was.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Albright College, the Learning Commons and Gigrich Library renovation project. And I turn it over to Jerome for the update.
So the applicant is preparing a revision to address the comments in our review letter. As you recall, this was a rename of the Albright College Learning Center. Gingrich Library will somehow be utilized. But the questions that we had was they're going to be doing the internal renovations. We wanted to make sure that all of the internal uses were going to be permissible by the institutional overlay district. They really didn't commit to what they were going to be doing with the internal components of it. Is it going to be used as a student union? Is it going to be used as a library? Things that we would commonly be permitted. So the zoning permit could be issued. We just want to make sure that there's no Starbucks or something along those lines. So we never got confirmation from it. I did talk to their engineer today, and I was able to provide them with some directions on what they need. They'll be revising the plan and resubmitting, but we should be close to an approval. We didn't have the county review last time, and we were expecting the plan to be reviewed, but their engineer had a question on how we can resolve zoning compliance.
Are we good with time?
Yes, it was just submitted last month.
Okay.
9 o'clock start last month.
Next, we have the conditional use application for 353 North 4th Street. And I believe.
Yes, I filed that application and so I want to stay for it.
Because you love conditional use applications.
Well, I think she's an A++. For her time.
And we're asking for a recommendation for people. It's adding one additional apartment to a building where there are already 2 apartments, mixed commercial residential use. The apartment is planned as 1,026 square feet, which is well above any minimum requirement for area of apartment. We believe it would be an improvement to the neighborhood. There's a parking area immediately adjacent on Woodward Street, so that provides at least 6 spaces. So parking should not be an issue with this building.
I got an interim staff report today with respect to that, and I think Joan is what she said is actually correct. This would be a 3rd residential unit within this as an apartment, meeting the square footage requirements. There are the provisions for off-street parking, which they have the 6 designated spaces. They did go through zoning hearing board for other relief. This is to allow the further conversion of a building into a residential use within the section.
So the R3 district.
R3 district. Yeah, so it's an R3 district conversion.
And
staff will formally issue the review then, but I didn't see anything major in terms of objection.
This 3rd apartment would be where the commercial space used to be.
I believe so. We were where there was commercial space.
And do you by chance know what they're doing with garage space?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I can probably answer some questions for you. This is Dan.
Oh, hi, Dan.
They asked me because on the zoning, we were supposed to get possibly a minor land development plan, and this property is completely covered with a building. So I don't think we need a minor land development plan, but we will have to do the sewage module. They intend to keep the commercial area on, based on the plans that Mylan had prepared. The commercial area will be on the 1st floor. There will be 2 apartments. What's that?
Yeah, this would be an upstairs apartment. It would not be
Yes.
a regular apartment.
Yes. So there are 2 apartments on the 2nd floor, and then the 3rd apartment is on the 2nd floor with the bedrooms on the 3rd floor. That's the way the plans look.
So what we could do is also consider the waiver for land development at this stage.
we wait till they get through condition, I have submit a request.
Okay.
Yeah, I submitted that request. It says 6 on lot of 400 Woodward Street, apartment and 317. Where's the parking, or is there parking requirement for the commercial?
I don't believe that there is a parking requirement for the commercial use and business use.
Okay, it's just something I would ask. I would recommend this commission ask to be investigated as part of staff review and additional hearings.
So they're required to have 1.5 parking spaces for each unit, so then that would make it 4.5 spots, so it'd be 5. And then there would be the other space, but that doesn't answer your question.
Yeah, I don't know, can you park on the, if commercial's required, it's just 3 in the garage. I don't know if you can park in the garage for the commercial people coming in. I don't see what the commercial space is going to be at this time. Dan, do you know what the proposed commercial use is?
I have no idea. It's just vacant right now. I think there another commercial space waiting for somebody to come.
My only other comment is, which should be, it's probably a condition of the zoning hearing board, but also I'd recommend for city council is compliance with any applicable fire and building codes. Does it have to be sprinkler? Does it have to be separation? Does there have to be windows? Just looking at these issues.
Yeah, we understand that would be a condition of approval.
All right, yeah, because this project has already been held up. I actually filed a complaint against them because they were installing a non-engineered roofing system. And I had the building inspector go over there and he confirmed it, so he put a stop work order on this. Now it's beautiful. They did a great job on that roof. So I'm sure that it's they're willing to apply very willing to meet all the requirements now that they understand.
Yes.
Okay, does anyone have a question about this conditional use application?
I think I did see an application for one-stop meeting for December.
Dan, did you do an application for One Stop? I did not do an application for One Stop for this.
I believe Jonathan was going to come in on Thursday, but his wife is in the process of having a baby, so it's up in the air. But I believe we were going to have a one-stop coming in to talk to you.
I had also heard from the city clerk's office attempting to schedule the conditional use hearing for July 21st. I've emailed Jonathan about that as well.
Yeah, that's why we have it on this agenda.
Yeah, that's why we put it on this agenda.
And we're short 2 zoning officers at this moment, and so therefore we had to scramble to make sure that we knew what the conditional use application was.
Yeah,
So my question was.
I thought he seemed to be setting up appointment for last Thursday, and that was Juneteenth, I guess. And so nothing was open, and then he was looking at this Thursday, but I haven't heard him if he made an appointment with the One Stop.
So we got a full set of architecturals on with this application. So they did do a lot of background on it, and we found basically that there's no really objections from the planning and zoning end, but as Michelle had brought up, the site accessibility issues from code enforcement as well as fire and rescue are essential. And also the planning module. It's in a strange spot.
So that my question was, should we follow through with the one stop, or you feel like this discussion that we have had, and I know it has gone through the zoning hearing board, does kind of answer the questions you had?
Well, any approval could be conditional on meeting the code requirements. It generally is.
Yeah, and sometimes they ask at the zoning hearing boards as well as the conditional use application if they attended a one stop. So it would be a good idea that they do attend.
That's all right.
Right.
Okay. So does anyone else have any other comments on this one? All right, do I hear a motion to approve recommend the conditional use application to city council for their review? With the condition that the applicant submits the planning module and meets all fire accessibility codes and other possible code related issues.
So move.
Applicable. Okay, thank you, Nelson. Okay,
You're welcome.
second. Okay, Peter? I think you said, right?
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joan, and thanks for your patience. It's projected.
Yeah.
But like I said, at least we're not going to
It's
midnight.
not 1 a.m. It's only a little over the 3-hour mark.
Yeah, right.
3-hour mark is.
We're halfway there.
Well, have a good evening.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, next up, we have an update for the Supernatural Produce 3.
Yeah, this is just an update. Supernatural Produce 3 has obtained their highway occupancy permit. So this is another project that Dan has, but we just basically need the conditions of approval will be resolved at our next meeting in July. Plan can be endorsed and recorded. There are just a few municipal improvements left. I mean, they've done them all. It's like basically 95% done. The only thing that was remaining was the HOP work, which was the entrance for point of ingress and egress. So this is
Do we want to do similar to what we're doing with STEM? Or do we just want to do a maintenance agreement?
They were doing the improvements, pay as you go to do it.
Okay.
And they're Tim, we'll have to discuss on the maintenance if we want maintenance on the underground detention facility for the Supernatural Produce. It's been 2 years since they installed it.
You're talking about it like a maintenance bond, hold it for maintenance? Yeah, it's been in there. Yeah, well, we haven't done a final on it, so we can do a final on it. And I think if it's fine, yeah, then I don't know that we need maintenance.
Okay.
We could do a final inspection. And then,
Okay.
Then I guess we can do, if there's an escrow release or something, I guess we can do that too.
They don't have an escrow.
Yeah, they don't have an escrow release.
They've been doing it on their own. Hey, as you go. They were taking a chance of getting the HOP and they got it. That have been denied.
Yeah, that would have been a problem.
So the most important thing is the HOP has been approved.
Great. And for those of you, I think this HOP has taken like 2 years to obtain.
Yeah.
Is that right, Dan? That sounds right.
It's horrible. It is horrible.
We have We have another one up the road that needs a driveway HOP too, and I'm just relating that to our staff. I say, oh my gosh, think about Supernatural 3 and how long that took.
I'm working on getting those driveway ramps on Spring Street, 6th and Spring, eliminated.
Yes.
And I had a price from a local engineer of $13,000 to get the permit to do 60 feet of curbing.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I complained to Mark, and Mark and I are working at putting a plan together, and I think I'm going to have a permit for that. And I'll
Corsica.
yeah,
Good.
for Fabio there at
Yes.
6th and Spring. So I think
Yes.
we'll be able to get that going here pretty shortly. And right now I'm at $1,000 of planning rather than $13,000. But yeah, it is just horrible.
Are you advertising?
No, I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do anything. But I know people have been after him about when he's going to get the work done and whatnot. And we're slowly
Yeah.
approaching an
I'm
end point on that.
I'm on the list. I'm on that list. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
So Dan, on the plan itself, just reference the HOP, and we already have that on file.
Yeah. So we did an as-built survey, so I'll incorporate that and get a final plan together and get that in for the July meeting.
Okay.
Because it has approval, correct? We just need to sign the report. It has conditional approval.
Oh, well, then
Yeah.
just,
It's conditional final approval back in
Well,
2022.
Yeah, you don't have the reaffirmation, so it's.
Yeah, you got to go through reaffirmation. Yes, correct.
we have to do a reaffirmation?
Yeah.
The county's going to require you
Oh, for
Yeah.
to report.
Yeah, so, but when you submit the plan next month, we'll give you the reaffirmation, including that plan, and then you'll be able to go record.
okay.
Bring cake.
Might want to bring fireworks.
Bring fireworks.
Well, it's
All right.
really looking nice.
Yeah, it does.
Does.
Does look very nice. Does anyone else have anything else on Supernatural Produce 3? Okay. Then we will go to the update for First Energy Stadium.
Okay, so First Energy Stadium, they are in the process of getting their final plan together for approval. That will be a reaffirmation, which I have. So that they submitted the reaffirmation request dated June the 2nd. So we can take action on that. In the interim, they're going to be inserting an as-built plan into their plan set that reflects all the existing conditions. Tim, we're gonna have to do a final inspection on this one as well.
Okay.
And this one is also down to be reviewed for a escrow release final as well. So that'll be on our July meeting.
Tim, did you get a response from the city solicitor? I didn't see one. About the stormwater agreement?
No, I did. Yeah, you asked that question. I have not heard back from the solicitor as to whether or not the maintenance of the stormwater is in the lease agreement. So I don't have an answer.
Do you want to resend or need to resend?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay.
See if we respond to you. I've got 2 other things out there for him too.
Okay.
We want to do the reaffirmation then. Okay, very good. Any other comments on First Energy Stadium? Okay, do I hear a motion to reaffirm the final plan for First Energy Stadium at 1900 Center Avenue? Okay, Peter?
At the house.
Yes.
Good lead off.
And yeah, and I'll second that. question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, we did do the update for the STEM Academy. So we can pass over that. Here, I don't have to sign this. Yeah. And okay, next we did do that. All right, so next up we have the waivers for 630 South 9th Street.
Oh,
Did that.
We did that.
discussed that.
We did that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great.
We did.
So then next. Okay. For the moment, we'll skip over the next one since it's a little complicated. I think that's much. And Michelle just walked out of the room. Oh. Okay.
Did we do something on the STEM earlier?
Oh, we just gave the update to Mr. Hayes about what are we doing with that?
They're looking for a reduction in their on the escrow that they never agreed to. Basically, they're gonna have a different starting point than what they originally had. There was a $2.1 million escrow that was associated with the project. It's now going to be down, Will, I think about 70%. So we're down to like 300 some thousand, I think, that was required for the project. Most of those are HOP related improvements. As I mentioned, they did all the stormwater management improvements that were internal. That was a big chunk.
Okay, thank you. I know we mentioned the parking on Moore Street, but I don't remember discussing it. So, okay, that's all.
Okay. The actually we will go to the waiver for 1501 Mineral Spring Road. They are requesting a waiver from minor land development. They have submitted a letter, and here we were just wondering, do you have conflict of interest with this? Yeah. So the
Out of caution, we were only retained to help them through zoning, but out of caution.
yeah. Okay. So I see here. Well, I'll get a bit over to Jerome.
So we had conversations with the applicant at length, and they had questioned why we need a land development plan, and I said, well, we need to address site accessibility, stormwater management, building addition, sanitary sewage increase, water supply, emergency management, all the things that we normally look at. They came back and said, well, we're not going to be increasing the building size. We're not going to be increasing any impervious coverage. We're going to utilize the parking spaces that are there. And therefore, we're not going to create any impacts. There is the internal division of space and change of use from a nursing home to residential apartments. So what they're stating here in this letter dated June 12th is basically all those issues of they have a certain amount of parking that they don't need to add on to. It's going to be utilized for residential use, containing a certain amount of apartments. Can't put my number on it right now. 20 units that are going to be located within the site. And then they're stating that a minor land development plan done and received an astronomical quote of $15,000. Dan, how much can you do it for? So
did
for
you say they
various
had,
reasons, Claude.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, did they address
So
the
there was
parking? Did they present a parking
Yes.
plan? Well, that's going
They're
to,
using the existing.
is there parking?
They're going to use the existing park. Yeah.
Really? How many spaces? Doesn't look like there's
Well, it
many
says here,
spaces.
eventually upon Yeah, it says here, eventually upon completion, we would like to repave and stripe the lot as per the plan submitted and eventually restore all sidewalks and fencing. But I didn't see such a plan.
The zoning
Yeah.
office does have a plan.
I would think they'd have to come up with a parking area.
Are they utilizing the carriage house for some parking?
Is that undercover?
No, they have an existing parking lot that they show all the parking spaces on.
Right, right.
Again, I didn't just follow this.
Oh, okay, to the north?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Can we get 1501 Mineral Spring Road on the screen? And
Yeah,
you'll see
there's
the
a parking lot, but I was
spaces.
just wondering if they were using the carriage house too.
Okay, I didn't know they had that parking lot too.
To the air. Go to the aerial. Just
Are you looking at Street View?
Yeah, just look on the layers there at the bottom left corner.
yeah, and then go to the satellite.
Yeah, there we go.
So the parking lot area is, hold it. Goes around the building and you'll see the parking spaces semi-delineated on the north side.
Simon, for the benefit of us online, are you looking at Street View?
Yes.
Yes,
Not yet.
not yet.
Okay, do you mind if I share?
No, go ahead.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Peter. Sorry.
You'll see on the north side of the property.
Are you sharing, Tim?
I am. Did you want to share? I won't.
Yes, go on. Sure.
You want me to do it? Oh, okay.
Yes, please, go on.
Yeah. So those spaces.
Is this the carriage house here?
Well, do you know if that's the carriage house?
No, you can't
What's
see.
that?
I don't think
Yeah,
Will
I
can
believe
see
that
it.
is the carriage house.
It looks like
Yeah.
a carriage. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think you
Mainly-
can, I don't know that you can see it from here. I think it's back here.
Yeah, you can't count there. They did have a plan that the zoning office reviewed, and it did have parking spaces shown.
I'm trying to get that plan. Why that plan first?
And apparently it did comply with zoning, otherwise the zoning office would have made a comment that it does not comply with zoning.
And then it also says all details of every aspect of the interior work are presented on the MEP plans, whatever that means. Never heard of that.
Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing.
Oh.
Okay. I've never heard it referred to it
Ar-
as
Architects,
that. I've been out of
architects
the
live there.
business for a while.
There's a lot of engineering
Sorry.
firms that do nothing but ME and P.
The yeah, I'm not sure why they sent this letter but didn't send the plans.
There is a plan with the zoning plan.
I will try to find the plan.
Okay.
So that I can.
So what the plan does show basically shows the like where the existing buildings are, and it shows a delineation of parking spaces. Yeah, and as I think there was 30 parking spaces. But I can't.
Do you know how many units? Oh, there it is. And there's 33 units.
33 parking spaces, 33 units.
Or no, sorry. That is not correct. That's their other place. Yeah, they don't state how many units are in this.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we wouldn't be able to accept a plan submitted to zoning as a land development plan, would we? Or?
Well, they're looking for a waiver of land development.
No, I understand. Or would we, the question then is, if we not accepting it as a plan, would we accept it in lieu of a plan? Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of doing. If the
It's
staff is okay with that.
not a plan.
You what?
I don't have the plan, I have the waiver request.
But we don't have that. But we don't have that plan in front of us.
Hold on. Yeah, I only have text documentation. We could ask for a supporting sketch of the information, verify the letter.
Right. That's what I would like to see, is verification, just verification of 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph.
You know, the other stuff's irrelevant. I don't care what they did in New York. I don't care what they did in West Reading.
Yeah. I really don't care. They're plus 15,000 to do a minor land development plan. My code compliance review for my little 500 square foot shop cost me $5,000.
But yeah, there should be a some form of a sketch along with this letter.
Right.
We could table it till next one.
Yeah. I would prefer to table it if everyone else is in agreement. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
so,
I like that motion.
okay. Okay, motion to table?
Yeah.
Peter, second?
I'll second.
Okay. And Will. Question on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Guess Nelson's still there. Okay, opposed? All right, very good. Okay. We're coming up to the what do you call it, the final stretch. Okay, update on the short-term rental zoning amendment.
Well, we thought we would have the county review, but I now know that what the county problem was. So we were hoping to go over those comments tonight. So we did review them informally at our workshop session, but I would say let's push it to the next workshop session and then hopefully have some.
Are we still stuck on keeping these distances, 500 and 1,000 foot distances?
They're up for
discussion. Personally, I think that that's very discouraging of rentals. Downtown core, where there would be more likelihood of worse use of rentals.
So you think there's a general reduction in
the distance,
separation distance?
Yeah, I would cut them in half.
So 250 and 500.
Yeah. So even that seems to be far, but I think we need to pick a starting point that I'll get around.
We're waiting to see if the county is going to say anything about that as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they might have an opinion. but-
But this will be on the workshops,
Yeah,
agenda.
That will be perfect.
Yeah.
And if you could send, Matt,
Matt?
right? Because, he's been in on these discussions.
He will be here. I have another conflict in July. So he will be here.
Okay.
And their partner might be at your actual PC meeting.
Okay.
So,
Gee, busy. Okay.
well, I'm traveling for the actual meeting.
Okay. So Matt.
I will tell them an attendance has been requested.
Yeah.
Yep, was very good on the subject.
Yeah, actually, we had a good discussion. So. Okay,
Otherwise, I think it's pretty well written.
yeah, I think.
Oh, and then there was also a comment that you provided as well as that you think that we should add in the RPO.
Oh, the RPO zoning district, because that's also a commercial zoning district. RPO. Residential professional office.
Sure.
And that's basically Kenworth Boulevard.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because, there's some nice houses there and, they have commercial on the first floor. And they might be able to.
It's actually amazing how nicely developed that commercial or it is. Professional offices that line the street. Nice grounds there. Maintaining their buildings nicely.
Yeah.
And I'm not been involved with this, so I'll defer to Matt, but are you allowing them in apartments or in the commercial core? I understand why you might have them in apartments first floor, but not in the residential areas.
So in the, where there's residential apartments, we allow a certain percentage of the apartments to be utilized.
I'm just thinking where these single family homes have been cut up into 3 apartments and one of them's gonna be rental for Airbnb or Airbnb.
Yes, it can be done.
There are multi-units, legal or illegal in R3.
20% of the multifamily dwelling can be used for the URBO.
I'll defer to the commission. I just
Okay.
have a concern of taking one of these apartments and these.
It's pretty
Small
restrictive in
residential.
terms of, that there's a 30-day duration and it's don't turn it into a boarding house.
Yeah, that's why we allow 20% of the building to be occupied by an URBO. We can certainly look at reducing that further.
Yeah, or I don't mind in apartment complexes, but it's these single family dwellings converted into apartments where you've got really small apartments.
Residential conversions.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I think it'll also cut down on neighbor complaints or something.
Yeah.
All right, any updates on the parking and loading amendments?
That'll be the next wave coming your way.
Okay. Great. Okay.
We can discuss it during the workshop as well.
Okay. Next up, we have.
Oh.
Stop moving around.
You can go.
The meeting's up.
That should
I think my pumpkin arrived.
Wait a minute, go ahead, Kevin. Make sure everyone's
Still
here.
got a quorum.
The ordinances and other recommendations submitted to council, the Vision Zero Action Plan.
Yeah, the Vision Zero Action Plan was presented to the council yesterday, and as it stands, it was adopted. That's what I believe to share. They have also scheduled a community meeting on the 26th of this month within the city to share with the community about the Vision Zero Action Plan. They are submitting an application for the fund, implementation fund, possibly on Thursday. I'm not sure. So that plan is moving forward quite well, and we're very happy with the council.
Do we have a update on the blinded property review committee?
I'm kind of curious, what would you like to know?
Every detail.
Every detail. It is working, it is functioning, it is doing its thing. Say, word is reliable. At least reliable, that's working.
Okay, all right, all right. I understand that, there is work happening with the redevelopment authority to get them on board.
Yeah, I hear that there are discussions going on.
Yes, I'm thinking about attending Thursday's meeting. If it cools
Redevelopment
down.
or blighted property.
Redevelopment authority.
I want to make sure I have a meeting with her, so.
Yeah, no, redevelopment authority. Okay. Here, any other meetings attended by commission members and staff? I attended the Chris meeting, but I forget what they, I forget what they did. They paid some bills, I think.
The Chris, for everybody's knowledge, Chris has been working towards a June 15th deadline. That's with the state to submit tax filings for all businesses and property owners. So it's roughly 300, roughly 400, let's say, legal entities. They're either property owner or they operate a business in a property. It could be the same entity, could be separate entities. Could be multiple businesses in one property, but anyway, there's roughly 400 or so legal entities that needed to do tax filings with both the state, and there's a filing with the city as well. And it was just an astronomically large exercise. City staff was heavily involved. The Latino Chamber was heavily involved. Albernia was heavily involved, and various board members as well. We got the filing done. The accuracy is, we're going to get a readout Thursday. I come to the meeting. Carol up, but probably thinking it's somewhere in the 65% range of all of those entities that completed the filing, which actually is a pretty good outcome for year one. State has been impressed by our effort, our ground game to get this to happen. It's really a big, big hurdle. And now we have to do it every year for the next 30 years.
You're going to be around 30 more years, Lucy.
Yeah, actually, Lucy, she was.
Hi.
Yeah, she chairs meetings. Yeah.
Look, just so everyone knows, Lucy and I know each other from when she worked at Community First, and she helped me out with a loan which went a great deal towards restoring a commercial property on Spring Street. So
Lucy is also the vice chair of the Chris Authority.
Yes.
So
yes. So actually, I was able to, when I was having the Chris meeting, up to Lucy, shook her hand.
And part of the Supernatural Fresh 3 team.
Yeah, that's it. That's good.
Yeah. So the that was a hard road to hoe. That project because lots of problems with that project, but they promised they would get it done, and yeah, they're definitely working on it. So yeah, and we work very closely with Dan Loudensfire, so we should be able to get things squared away.
Yep.
Next month. So, did you have any comments, Lucy?
No, I just wanted to thank on behalf of the SMP3 team, the commissioners for the patience they've had with this project. And we hopefully will have an opening date, a soft opening by the 1st of August if everything goes as planned and we get all the items completed on the letter. We've already gotten our TCO, so and inspections have happened, which is great.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Well, thank you very much, Lucy.
Thank you
for having patience with us.
No
Anything
worries.
else here?
I'll see Peter on Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, take care, Lucy.
Take care.
The next phase really is, we're working on guidelines for accepting applications and evaluating them. We're working on a funding strategy until we're self-sufficient. The revenue, the city has offered a bridge for that. It's terrific. And we're going to be essentially evaluating projects by late summer. Yeah, very good. I had a question. I had a question. Yeah, as we talk about applications and preparation, we do have some properties within the city, and this came after, I think, this Lancaster at one point. They had one of the big buildings. I won't say it was almost industrial. It was basically abandoned, had nothing. But what they did is they went in that building, kind of renovated it, and now what they have done is they have provided spaces for small business owners. So you find someone with a small fridge, running cold drinks here, someone is running a small shop. So basically the whole building is rented out. Something that would have happened if all of it was not. Little workshops. Yeah. And I was thinking about us as a city, and now I was looking at Chris, and my question was, if we go that direction or we think of such projects, Chris consider such. I mean, well, if they're in the zone, absolutely. Yeah. Any and all projects will get considered. I think the question is, well, how much meaningful support will Kevin Chris provide for a project? So it is a function of, I don't want to get ahead of the committee that's working on these guidelines. It will be a function of the Chris revenue the site will generate in the future. That's important because that's what sustains the program and allows it to grow and make other investments. And the strategic importance for the city is also factors in it, right? So, if it's a site that's in the strategic plan that the city wants to see develop in a certain direction, maybe it's owned by the redevelopment authority or city directly, but that was the case of the Fifth and Penn, for example. That's a strategic importance, site. I think Chris authority will recognize or give special consideration strategically important sites like that. But again, I don't want to get ahead of the committee that's working on this. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, first and foremost, it has to be within the 130 acres that we've designated. Yes. We have the Dana site as sort of a land bank. That we could subdivide that site and take pieces of it out of the zone and take that land and add other things into the zone. Right. Yes. So if somebody comes along and says, I want to redevelop this building, but it's not in your zone, we can consider putting it in the zone. And that's that land bank. Consider those fair enough. Yeah. So ultimately, if something happens, some development occurs on the Dana site, and I know that there's stuff being discussed, and that gets turned over to a developer or operator, maybe we want to subdivide it and hold some of the land, I don't know that all of it is usable for industrial.
West of the train tracks, it's not useful, it's in the floodplain.
So, and there you go. But it's all sitting in the cribs right now. It's part of the 130 acres. I think there's 40 some acres there. Okay. And so, if somebody comes along and wants to do something there, I don't think they need the 40 acres. They might need 20 of them or 10.
At least 10 to 15 acres is west of the train tracks.
So we should make I'm just sharing this with you because it came up recently in a conversation that, if we can carve off the not very useful land and have that as part of our land bank, that we can take pieces of it out and of the CRIZ and other stuff into the CRIZ without disturbing 10th Street, Washington Street, and the strategically important stuff that we already have in the CRIZ. That would be really interesting. That gives us a whole lot of flexibility. Other cities, are struggling with this a little bit. Other CRIZ cities that they don't to take something out of the CRIZ in order to put something else in. The owner of the property that is in the CRIZ that you want to take out, they have to agree to it. Now, if it's owned by the city of Reading, we can make that happen. We can say, this project's important. Let's take this floodplain land out. Yeah, but if it's owned by somebody else, then it becomes a point of difficulty. Can we convince them to agree to subdivide, whatever. Yeah. So rather than creating that difficulty, let's just go and subdivide it when we have that user identified, a developer user, and only give them the land that they actually need, not the extra land.
And then that land in the floodplain, we could actually put in the preservation district and keep it in the city of Reading.
So anyway, as we go, we're going to be adjusting the map. We essentially pick a whole bunch of properties that we think are important for redevelopment or right for redevelopment or strategic in a plan. But not all of them are the right choices. So we will make adjustments to the map as we go. But again, somebody has to agree to get out of the map in order for us to put something else into it. So, that becomes like, and we've just got the big plot, the Dana site, 40 some acres, the city owns, but the city can make that decision. So that's very helpful.
Yeah, actually, that more I think about it, makes sense to divide that off, put it in the preservation district, because the force mains for the 19th Ford pumping station, that's right there.
Yeah.
So,
and some of it was backfill from the hospital and all of the things. Yeah, but that's, the building that was proposed there previously and was partially built, it's only going to take 5 or 10 acres of site.
Yeah.
In reality, anyway.
Yeah. Okay. We are finally up to public comments. So, do you have anything, Chris?
Not really. I mean, I sent you so many things. I don't necessarily recall it all, but today I must have sent you something about centralizing government or something, and other things I had commented on, like trying to green up the city more, and I think I might have sent an email with a whole bunch of footage that I took when I was in other cities in the region, like work in Lancaster and such. I wanted to know if you had anything to say about all that.
So actually, personally, I haven't had a chance to take a look at any of it. I am so far behind. Since I was away most of the month of May.
Oh, okay, that explains a lot. Yeah, but of course, also ideally I wanted wanted to consider the idea of, like, sort of like decentralized process. You do have like, what do you call those, neighborhood groups, right, neighborhood associations?
Yeah,
That,
and
but
Linda,
they have neighborhood councils that make
Yeah.
decisions. But there are
Linda Kelleher has that list.
Yeah, are there, is there particular funding that goes out to those neighborhoods?
Not usually.
Okay, is there any way that we could sort of like, not exactly delegate like the final decisions to them, stuff like that, but make it sort of like available for requests of some sort, and you know, if people could get together and decide what they wanted, but also if there was a way that, say, there was a designated person who could go to each neighborhood and give them an update on, say, what we're doing here.
We tried that at one time and just didn't have the staff. I don't know if,
Was that during the River Place time?
Tony Velos, from, Community Development, let me say, Community Development Department, CDBG section is very active, and he does participate in the community.
Did you say the 18th ward?
Tony Velos sits at the Executive Director Office.
Oh, Tony Veloci's office,
Yes. He's one of the people who has grown up in the community here, and he's very active in the community meetings. Now, one thing that I did have a conversation with him last week was that we should go out and try to identify and actually participate in some of these community meetings for us to be able to identify leadership and see how we can lead.
What's his committee?
Say that again?
What is the name of his committee?
I would not tell you, but I know what they are in various sections of the city, there are communities structured and organized.
So you don't know the name of the committee, or it's private?
No, I have not, we have not gotten there. I don't know them myself, but he does know them.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Interesting.
what,
Like as far as, and then as of course, as far as other decentralization ideas, the idea that, say, you know, people in a neighborhood council could, you know, perhaps vote on something and that could be sort of in a way binding to their city council member or something like that.
well, this would be a better discussion for at a committee of the whole meeting, which actually I'm going to the next committee of the whole meeting to discuss this vehicle noise radar. I got so much good feedback on this, and Will wrote out a very nice email about this and how much motorcycles and loud music.
I definitely have had concerns with that too. There was actually somebody who sat across from my apartment in that little lot next to Race Number 1 Pizza, and maybe for like seemed 3 or 4 hours, they just sat there and blasted their music at even above a normal level for even those usually blasting through the intersection. Yeah.
I didn't get the chance to respond, but when I was here, there was an ordinance that vehicle music could not be heard across property lines. So that may be something somebody wants to look at to see if there is an
That's
existing.
because there was a car that went by.
I know, I was like, yeah.
Several property lines.
Does it actually detect what car that is that it came from?
Yeah, it uses artificial intelligence technology, snaps a picture of the license plate, sends them a fine.
That's wild. I really like that because there's so many times that stuff passes by at my intersection that's just really loud.
The radar is gonna be an issue in Pennsylvania.
maybe think that will be part of Vision Zero implementation.
So anyway, Donna Reed is willing to have a conversation about this in July.
Yeah.
So we'll be following up on that.
So just wondering, has Jamie been around ever since the?
Oh, it's surprising he's not here today. He's usually here.
Oh,
Actually, confirm.
yeah. I tried to send him a letter via the city address, you know, to see what his mode of operation would be as far as like after the city council president Freiberg was over and stuff like that.
Well, he still keeps his position as District 2.
Right, that's true, but I'm just saying. I'm just saying, how would he say mitigate that sort of awkwardness in that he's working with people who just ran against?
Well, we did discuss that last week, so
Oh, you did?
next time he's here. So, does anyone else have, anything else for the good of the order?
A quick question, for Public Works. Is there any plan to repaint the bicycle lanes on Kenhurst Boulevard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
good.
I asked Kyle the same question, Kyle Zieber, our director, and he
Yes.
said, yes,
Always
that they are working on it. Yes. And that's on the other side of town, Will. Wow.
Oh,
You're
I
looking at
get
the whole
around.
city
Yeah.
here. Yeah, you get around.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah, it needs it bad. I know.
Yeah, it's great that it's great we have them there, but, yeah, they're due. Thank you.
Yeah. And as long as I'm saying it, a lot of people know that there's going to be some paving going on this summer. PennDOT will be repaving Center Avenue, Washington Street, and Franklin Street. Right now, they're out on Mineral Spring. They're going to work their way down to, 11th and then out to Walnut on that state route. And then the city's got a whole bunch. Of course, we're going to be doing rebuilding Hancock Boulevard. Finally, we're going to get that done. Pick up where we left off. If you've been out to the Liggett Avenue intersection, that's all done now. That all the islands, getting ready for our next bike lane down the middle of the islands. That's all finished up now at Liggett Avenue.
Right.
So we're finished with that. We'll pick up there at Reading Truck Body at their crosswalk, and we'll rebuild, not only repave, we'll reconstruct Hancock Boulevard down to Lancaster Avenue.
Right.
So a lot of street work this. Yep.
The window people.
All right.
All right. Yeah.
Very good. With that, I guess we go ahead.
I'll make the motion.
Peter, second to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, thank you, Nelson.
You're welcome.
Okay, question on the motion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, James isn't here to oppose today, so.
For the record, we used to start at 7, so we would have been out of here